It's 7 o'clock. We'll get started. Good evening. Welcome to the Bloomfield Township Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for July the 11th, 2023. As a brief introduction, the Zoning Board of Appeals is a 7-member quasi-judicial body appointed by the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees per the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. Matters pending before the Zoning Board of Appeals are decided on a case-by-case basis. Any appeal of a decision made by the Zoning Board of Appeals is subject to circuit court review. Each case will be called separately in the order shown on tonight's agenda. There will be an opportunity for public comment at one point during each case. All persons wishing to comment will be asked to provide their name and address at the podium. Address your comments to the board and not the applicant or other members of the public. Given the number of appeals tonight, please make your comments brief. Comments by the Neighborhood Association will be considered as part of the factual information presented to the board, but the comments are not the determining factor for approval or denial. Please confine comments to the specific request before the board. For a request to be successful, an affirmative vote of at least 4 members present is required. We hope this provides a better understanding of what you can expect at tonight's meeting. So let's take attendance. And then I'll need a motion to approve or amend the minutes for June the 13th, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes of June.
Support.
So I have motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So calling the first item now, item 1P, 1659 Ledbury Drive. Is the applicant here? You can state your name and address. Once you get to the podium.
My name is Mackenzie Morling, and stay at 1659 Ledbury Drive.
Okay, so could you summarize for us what you need?
Yeah, so I'm just coming in to get like the final approval for a little self-installed dog pen that I had set up in our backyard area. I know the pictures are from like this last winter because I had to postpone the last meeting that I was scheduled for, but it's really just, like I said, a little self-installed dog pen to give our 2 dogs just an area to use the bathroom to keep them away from the neighbor's side of the yard and make it a little easier to clean up since the yard is so large.
Do you have screening planned for the fence?
So yeah, I have put in screening since, and on one side from the neighbor's yard, it's screened in just from the existing like foliage and stuff like that.
Do you have any pictures of the screening?
I don't have pictures of the screening, no.
Do you have any other questions from the board? Okay, I'll open this for public comment.
I guess if this is a 4-foot fence, which doesn't require a dimensional variance, and it's in the rear yard, why does it require
It's a
permission?
dog containment fence.
Purpose of the enclosure.
For purpose. Now I understand. I think I've only been doing this for a week or 2.
Do you have any other questions, Beth? Okay, so I'll open this for public comment. Does anyone here like to speak on this item? I'll close the public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion or motion. So just so you know, the condition of the motion will be that the screening has to obscure the fence
Okay. Yeah, and it is currently.
to its height 12 months out of the year.
Okay.
So your screening meets that requirement?
Yes.
Okay.
An evergreen. Right.
Evergreen, yes. So 12 months would be, yes, you need evergreen screening. Okay, as long as you're clear.
I can make a motion.
Great.
In regard to the appeal at 1659 Ledbury Drive for the accessory structure and fence, I move the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. Because the location of the accessory structure and fence will not hinder or discourage adjacent property because it's set back far enough from the property lines. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits made within 5 business days for the existing fence. Additional evergreens need to be planted to hide the fence 12 months out of the year with evergreens. From public view, it must meet or exceed the height of the fence at the time of planting.
Support.
So I have a motion and support. Any discussion?
I just had a quick question. There is a letter, opposing this that mentions you run a dog business.
So that was already closed down as of a couple months ago now.
Okay.
I can confirm that as well.
Any other discussion on the motion or questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling the next item, item 2P, 6715 Birmingham Club Drive. Is the applicant ready?
Hello, everyone. Just trying to put a shed just to store my garden supplies. And so I don't know what, I think it is from 16 feet according to the rule, from the margin or the fence to the neighbors.
So why did you pick that location? Because typically, you
Yeah.
don't like to see sheds in the setbacks, and yours appears to be very close to the property line. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, it's from the back to the front. It goes up here like an uphill, and literally you really don't have any other space to put that on because there's a long pine trees goes this way, and that is the only space where it is flat. Everything else is like an uphill.
This isn't,
And the other side of the thing is also, big trees. So it's just literally have no place.
I think in one of the pictures, isn't that right next to your neighbor's pool? Isn't there a pool on the other side of
Pool
that?
is the behind, yeah.
Okay.
Pool is behind, but they have the trees behind the shed. There is a fence goes, right, metal fence, and they have planted the trees behind the fence. So they really don't see the shed because they have these, evergreens.
Right, but our ordinance requires that you have screening on your property for
No,
a
they
shed like
also,
this.
they have screen.
Right, but that wouldn't count. You have to have the screening.
So how do we, it goes uphill, So if I,
Well, let's see if we have public comment, and maybe we'll come back to
Yeah.
that. So that would be the question you would have to answer. So I'll open public comment. Does anyone here like to comment on this one?
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, I'll close public comment. So that's part of the challenge, having the location you've chosen there. So
Yeah.
you're kind of up against the property line that's next to a pool,
Yeah.
and you're saying you're not able to
it's
screen
not a
it?
pool. The pool is the, at least, I think the pool is from the shed, I would say, at least 10 feet, what direction? 10 feet north of that, because they have a small sitting place at the side of the pool. That's where the shed comes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
not right next to the pool, pool, no.
Okay. Do we have other questions from the board about, is there any other place on your property you can put that shed, you think?
Then if I move this way, then this neighbor complains that it is close to his fence line.
What is the reason for the shed?
Reason for the shed?
Yeah, why are you using a shed?
Because I'm a gardener. I do like organic vegetable garden, and I also trying to create butterfly garden. So I just wanted to have all those supplies.
Is this a recent need? Is this, you've just moved into the property and?
No, the butterfly garden. I just the landscaper is gonna come and do whole thing. So this is something new. No, I've been there. I've been in this property for 11 years or something like that. Yeah.
Because we do have a letter of objection.
I guess, as much as I think the ability to use your own property the way you see fit is appropriate, The use does not necessarily take into consideration the need for additional buildings. And so as a gardener, I can understand the accumulation of stuff. I've only been doing it for about 30 years, so you accumulate some stuff. I hate this thing. So you do accumulate some stuff. But
And
as you
also I
accum-
buy
but as-
these,
but as you
yeah.
accumulate stuff,
Yeah,
as much as you would like to be able to use your property the way you see fit, it can have an impact on how others adjacent to you can use their property. And I'm trying to consider how this can best balance that issue. The fact that there's screening on the adjacent neighbor's property doesn't matter. They could take down that screening at any time, and then your shed would be exposed. So your shed has to be screened from your side of the fence, I guess is the observation I would make, even if they have screening already in place on their side of the fence.
yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. I may be the only one up here that's thinking that way, but I thought I would at least express that.
Could you put that other picture that was up there? There was
So
a-
can I move front just a few feet and put some trees?
You're heading in the right direction. That's good.
So,
But the question, it's like how much I can move.
Well, you have to
I
screen
guess I
it so your
can
neighbor can't
plant
see
the
it.
tree and then, trim the branches that comes towards the shed, and whatever the branches goes to their side, just let be that, I suppose.
so in the right picture, the picture on the right,
Yeah,
the brown boards that we see on the left, that's the walls of the shed?
yeah, that's the
Okay?
wall of the
And
shed.
then that fence, who does that fence belong to? The black fence?
I think I don't know. I think it belongs to them. Yeah, because they are the one have the pool.
They have the pool.
Okay, so
Well, that's
for
that
the-
black
that's for
fence,
the
all right,
pool.
so what I
Yeah.
don't see is anything that's stopping,
For the pool.
that's basically providing the coverage or the inability of your neighbors to see that shed, because the fence is right there, so they look at that shed every day.
No, this picture is old. This has been going on for some time. I didn't understand, so I missed the last meeting that I am supposed to come and whatnot. So by then, now they have constructed whatever they wanted to construct, and they planted the tree.
But they planted the trees, you didn't plant the
I
tree.
didn't plant the tree, they planted.
So I just
Yeah.
want to go back to the comment. You
Yeah.
talked about moving the shed away from the fence.
Yeah.
And planting trees or screening there.
Yeah.
So you would have to do that if we were to approve it. And the screening would have to be sufficient to go to the height of the shed, and it would have to be evergreen. So
Nobody could see the shed.
no one could see the
except you.
shed. So can you do that?
Okay, so I have to hide it, within the tree?
You have to screen it.
So do I have to, can I plant a small tree, or I have to
No,
plant a
no,
big
it has to be
tree?
to the height of the shed.
Height of,
Small tree won't work.
okay.
And you'll have to move the shed away from
And
the
you have to move the
fence.
shed
have
away.
room to
So-
put those behind the shed, so they're between the shed and the fence.
Yeah.
And if you're going to end up moving the shed, I don't know if there's a better spot on your lot that may have some screening
Right.
that you could just supplement.
Right, you could use your existing, you have other evergreen trees
Because if
in
it
your
wasn't so
yard?
right on the property line or so close to the property line, you may be able
We'd
to.
have more options.
There is
Trying to help
really,
you.
yeah, there is really no big options to move that around, actually, to hide it anywhere.
Is your property sloping down,
Sloping down, yeah.
sloping up to that pool?
It's down,
From your house, it goes down?
yeah. The front is up, yeah.
So unless some changes are made, I couldn't vote to approve this. I'll just let you know that, and there might be others that feel the same way. So you'd have to move it, and you'd have to screen it in order for me to approve it.
Okay, what is the time limit I have? How soon I have to do that?
That would be a determination by the board. The fact that she has had it up for a period of time, she's enjoyed the the use of it without approval from the
Yeah.
township, so I think the board should define a time frame in your deliberations, and also, the coloration. We have the blue, which might take into account some discussion the board may want to have.
Yeah, the color itself too, so that also makes it stand out more.
Yeah, the 1-foot rear setback, I mean, even if we're 5 feet and had plantings back there is pretty tough. I'm still wondering if there's another location for it, Just trying to meet the 16 on the side, but
So
Is
any
there a
location, you're saying that I have to hide it, like with the tree, within the trees?
Yes.
It has to be screened from public view, so that's your neighbors and the street.
so really the 3 sides, except for what you look at.
I see.
We
Okay,
really don't encourage sheds, so if there's going to be one, and we agree that there can be one, it does need to be.
okay, all right. So any time limit I have for, if I'm gonna put the trees?
We've already postponed this. How badly would you mess up the August agenda if we push this back another month, or?
It's already been tabled, so it's been
Yeah.
tabled already.
All right.
It
So we
can
can
be-
see a new site plan.
That could be a possibility, or the board could make motion to deny the
We
request.
could deny it, and then she'd have to come back with, that, because it would say then
That might be the easier way.
that might be easier to do it. And then she'd have to come back with a different plan with screening
Correct.
and a shed that might have different colors and,
Find the time frame for removal of the shed, too.
yeah. Well, typically, we say 30 days of approval of the minutes,
Correct.
which, given the amount of time she's had it, seem to be what we should do. Be the chair's observation, because I can't make a motion. Does anybody want to bite on that?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the permission request at 6715 Birmingham Club Drive, I move the request be denied as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with Section 42-7.6 standards. The size of the accessory structure is not compatible with the adjoining property based on its location and its lack of screening. The use of the accessory structure is inappropriate to the neighborhood as a shed, again, because of its location in the setback and the lack of screening. The location of the structure will hinder or discourage the adjacent use of property due to the lack of screening and its proximity to the property line. The accessory structure is not harmonious to the neighborhood, given the lack of screening and its location so close to the property line. And the accessory structure is objectionable to nearby residents for the reasons of its close proximity to the property line.
Support?
So I motion and support it.
Let me finish, I'm sorry, let me finish. With that having been said, the shed must be removed within 30 days of approval of the meeting minutes, which would be at the next meeting, so roughly 60 days from now.
60 days from now, I have to remove the shed, you said? Okay.
Or submit a new application, I would think.
Yeah, you can submit a new application, taking into account everything. You'd have to have screening for it. It'd have to be away from the property line, but
Okay.
you indicated this is the only place you can locate it.
All right.
Is that adequate, Pam?
Yep.
So I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The request is denied. Calling the next item, 3P, 2701 Turtle Ridge.
Good evening, Matt Mosier, representing homeowners at 2701 Turtle Ridge. I'm here to go over our plan tonight for a proposed cabana, kitchenette, and outdoor gas fireplace, or I'm sorry, fire pit. This is a challenging site in the fact that the lot has no backyard. It backs up to the wetlands, and the wetland buffer comes really right up to the back of the house. There is a nice section of land where you can see the yellow highlight that really acts as this client's yard. And it's quite unique in the fact that it's about 12 feet below the road. So, yeah, challenging from a construction perspective, but really actually sets us up nice for providing a nice environment for the client, but also respecting the community around us. The cabana itself, like I said, the floor of it sits approximately 12 feet below top of road, and it's actually built into the side of the hill, or we propose it. Like all the projects we do, we spend a lot of time studying how things can lay out, not only to meet the goals of the client, but also respect the community around us. As you guys may be aware, this is a discerning community that has high standards for what is built and also has an extensive review process of their own. This went through their review process and was approved. Like all projects, we've proposed a number of evergreen screening trees on the street side of the cabana area to the closest home, which is across the street. The area that the cabana kind of faces out to, which is the wetland area, I would say, if my guess was, the next house that way is about maybe 300 feet away, and there's a nice wood line that buffers us from that as well, so quite a long way away. We certainly meet the standards for practical difficulty. We got a very unique lot. These are features that other people in this neighborhood enjoy. We're certainly not causing any harm to neighbors or the community. And with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So have you, you probably haven't seen, there's a comment from Brent Staheber. There's some additional trees.
Yeah, I think that's the one across the wetland.
Okay.
Andrea, do you know if that picture got added today, or?
Oh, I can get you. Is it this address?
Yeah, the one I sent you earlier.
I told her to. She said she did.
Okay. Well, no big deal, but I took a picture across, and you literally can't see through anything. Now, in the winter, there might be a little bit of visibility. I don't think it's anything significant. What we did tell the association is that, just like any project, if there's concern from the neighbor several hundred feet away, that we would be happy to plant evergreens. But all the neighbors that are affected really we're heavily screened on the top of the hill. And I think, putting evergreens down on the marsh side, it's fine, but it looks a little contrived from all parties involved. So that's why we hadn't proposed it as of now, just because of the significant buffer that already exists.
All right, any other questions from the board? So I'll open this up for public comment. Is anyone here that'd like to say anything? Okay, I'll close the public comment. So we just have, there's one letter from Mr. Staheber, Stelherber. It just mentions, he actually marks out a couple of extra trees there. So we have a representation that, it's going to be screened from public view, and I think we could go with that.
Yeah.
If there's an issue.
I can make a motion if there's no questions. Okay. I'd like to make a motion in regards to the appeal at 2701 Turtle Ridge Drive for the cabana and fire table. I'll do the permission request first. I move that the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with Section 42-7.6 standards because the use of the accessory structure is appropriate to the neighborhood, as this is a common structure for homes in that particular neighborhood. In regards to the dimensional variance, I also like to make a motion to approve the dimensional variance for the cabana and fire table. I move that the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome. Basically because of the uniqueness of the lot, which really does not have a backyard. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors because it is screened, and if supplemental screening is necessary, the applicant is willing to do so. Unique circumstances of the property, again, because of the backyard backing up to the wetlands, and this is not self-created. With that, if approved, the motion also includes application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. And again, additional evergreen plantings may be required to screen the cabana from public view.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling item number 1, 3558 Tuckahoe.
Good evening. I'm Brian Nieper, the architect for the homeowners at 3558 Tuckahoe. So on this request here tonight, there's a Bloomfield Village home. Much like a lot of Bloomfield Village, the homes that are closer to Maple Road the sites are a little tighter. And some of the existing positions of the homes don't meet the current ordinance requirements for particular side yard setbacks and some front yard setbacks. In this case, we're proposing a second floor addition over the existing garage, and that existing garage is within the side yard setback that's required today. We're also proposing a kitchen renovation in addition to the rear of the home, keeping that in line with the existing home, puts us just slightly over the side yard setback on the other side as well. We're also doing a full exterior renovation of the home, just bringing the home up to today's standards. It's a 1950s colonial that just needs a little bit of TLC. So here for your approval to kind of maintain the existing footprint, kind of staying in line with the existing footprints of the home with our extensions. And
So what's the status of discussions with Bloomfield Village? Do you have approval from them yet, or?
we had approval with amendments to make them. Originally, we had a full covered terrace on the rear that we've since removed, and I think the only outstanding issue with them is mostly the color material approvals.
Okay. Because typically we get something from them in our packet. I don't know. Did we ever get anything? No?
Here's an email from Kathy Weisenborn saying that she doesn't have approval for the property. The board reviews the proposal and gave a tentative approval contingent upon revisions of the drawings for a number of items. I've not yet received the revised drawing as of last Friday.
Oh, okay. Okay, any other questions from the board? All right, I'll open this for public comment. Anyone here like to comment on this? Close public comment, bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, Bloomfield Village probably is the poster child for protection of its deed restrictions. As a consequence, as much as their deed restrictions aren't always necessary for us, aren't something that we automatically have to consider, I'm reluctant to move forward until those additional drawings have been presented.
Any other comment on that point? Everybody disagree, or?
I support it.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to make a motion to postpone this until such time as the new drawings can be presented to the village review process, and we can get a final approval or denial from the village on the proposal.
So I motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I'm sorry?
I,
You have a no?
in favor. No, I.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone opposed? Sorry about that. Okay. So we have postponed this until we've gotten some final comment from the village.
All right, I guess there's nothing I can do. All right.
Calling next item, item 2.
Okay, once again, I'm here representing the owner for 407 Tilbury Road. Very, very similar project in scope. We're adding mostly second-story living space, bedrooms, and master bedroom over the garage. In this case, again, we have a site that narrows to the rear of the property. I guess the major difference is we're extending the rear of the garage. The existing garage has no connection to the house. You have to actually walk outside. Even though the garage is attached, you have to walk outside to get into the mudroom. So we're pulling the garage back, which pulls us into the side yard setback because it's in line with the existing home. Similar situation on the other side of the home where we're extending the second floor over top of the existing structure, which is into the side yard setback. Also, doing an extensive facelift on the home, extending the front porch to give a full front covered porch in line with the existing garage. That existing garage structure is into the front yard setback. So, just a very, very typical Bloomfield Village situation where the home doesn't quite fit today's ordinance standards. We also have adding a generator to the home with the existing terrace that we're keeping on the home. I really didn't want to put the generator into the side yard, so we've extended it out towards the back, which is just beyond the air condensing units, so it's a little bit further away from the home than the township would like to see, but I feel that this is the best position for it to keep away from the neighbors. The yard is also very heavily screened all the way around the property, so there's very, very little chance that the neighbors will have any sight of this generator. Happy to answer any questions.
And then there's a proposed generator.
Yeah, he just
It's not immediately adjacent to the residence. Okay, any other questions from the board? I'll open this for public
Oh, I see
comment.
it, okay.
Anyone like to speak on it? Close it for public comment, bring it back to the board.
We do have association comment on this.
Yep. Do we have a letter from the village?
It's the first page of the attachment to.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the appeal at 407 Tilbury Road, I move the variance, the dimensional variances request to be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards of practical difficulty because strict compliance with the letter of the ordinance is unduly burdensome given the narrowing shape of the lot. The proposal is to just run in line with the existing house, and the encroachments are small and a result of the lot, not self-created. Also move to approve the generator location. I actually think if the AC condenser wasn't there, it would be proximate to the house. as intended by the ordinance. So if this motion were to pass, all applications for necessary permits must be made, and all permits must be secured prior to construction. Screening will be required around that generator to the height of it with evergreens.
Support?
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling item 3, 5030 Brookdale.
My name is Aaron Gabbard. I'm with Don's Electric, representing 5030 Brookdale for approval of rear yard generator. And the reason for going back there is the side lot would be visible from the street, and he has landscaping around where we were originally going to put it. And when we showed up with the generator, homeowner didn't like it because it just wouldn't look good from the street. So we came up with a solution to put it behind the detached garage, which is fenced from the road, so you can't see it from the road. And then also you have natural wood lines that line both properties on both sides and the rear yard. And the only reason the generator is set right now is because we had cranes and all of our equipment there, and figured we would figure it out. It is definitely not visible from any property or road, which is a good thing in my opinion. And it is a quiet generator, to where I think back here would be the least obnoxious. So, I mean, it's kind of where we're at with it.
Okay, any questions from the board? Open this for public comment. Anyone like to comment on this item? Close public comment, bring it back to the board. This is a very large lot.
I'd be willing to make a motion.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, in regard to the appeal at 5030 Brookdale Road for the dimensional variance regarding the generator, I move the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all of the standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome due to the layout of both the lot and the home on it. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors by reason of the same rationale. Also, unique circumstances with the property have been demonstrated given that, and it is not self-created due to the very nature of the lot and the home itself. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to installation, and also additional evergreen plantings may be required to screen the generator from public view and must meet or exceed the height of the unit at the time of planting.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling item 4, 1789 Long Lake Shores Drive.
Hello, my name is Retta Jaber from 1789 Long Lake Shore Drive, and I'm here to request an ability to add 3 4x6 sheds behind my garage. It's over 30 feet away from the nearest neighbor. There's a line of evergreen trees. It would be not visible from the street, and the design of the sheds are consistent with the design of my house in terms of color and an overall design of the kind of the brown slats.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? So I think one of the things that'll help us, is there a picture that kind of shows the tiering? So that's where you're going to put the sheds, correct? So is it?
That is I took that picture from the place where the sheds would be.
Oh, okay.
So it's looking at the nearest neighbor.
Okay.
So you can see there's evergreens there, and it's kind of tiered hill going up, as well. If you go to the previous picture,
And it looks like they abut the house.
from
Yeah, they back up to the house.
along that,
Up at the
there's my garage.
I
The
see.
sheds would be right along the garage right there.
Right.
On that.
So you can see on
brick.
the left, there's tiering.
And the reason you have three of them is you got what you want that size, and
Yeah, it just kind of fit perfectly.
it works in
that
it works in that space.
It was
Okay.
visually more appealing to get three. I'm okay with one.
Three smaller ones and a big one.
Well,
Okay.
they don't make one that's 18 feet,
Yeah.
18 feet long and only
Yeah.
6 feet high.
You have to build one, yeah. All right, any other questions from the board? Open this to the public. Anyone like to comment on it? Close the public hearing. Get back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I can make a motion.
Okay.
In regard to the appeal at 1789 Long Lake Shore Drive for the accessory structure, for the three structures, I move that the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. Because accessory structures are appropriate to the neighborhood as they are hidden pretty much into the topography of the home, and they're screened from view. And if this motion, or if approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits, must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. Additional evergreen plantings may be required to screen the sheds from public view and must meet or exceed the height of the shed at the time of the planting. And I'd like to add that those plantings would be on top of that wall, the retaining wall, if those trees aren't all evergreens.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling item 54035 Blackthorn Court.
How you doing? My name is Mike Polari. I'm the owner of 4035 Blackthorn. I'm here to seek approval to replace my existing fence that's in massive disrepair. It's an old cedar fence with a chain link attached to it, and the posts are rotting and falling down. So I'm requesting variance to replace the existing fence along the existing fence line, shown there in yellow. The fence will be a modern and black 4-foot aluminum fence, which is consistent with the other modern fences in the neighborhood. And I believe the variance here is that the fence does not go directly parallel to the back of my house. And moving the fence line, unfortunately, would require removal of many large old-growth trees in the area, which would add a significant additional cost, in my opinion, diminish some of the natural beauty of the area, as well as remove screening of the house from the road. I do want to say that, and there's some pictures in here, the existing fence line is significantly off the road, and is hidden from view in most directions by large tree brush and growth. I do have some subdivision comments here, if you'd like me to read them, and a letter from a neighbor. Would you like me to read those?
Please, we need a copy for the record.
Sure, absolutely, I can provide a copy. Would you like me to read them, or just submit them? Up to you.
You can just submit them.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll open up for questions.
Any questions from the board?
What is the function of the fence?
We've always had the fence since we bought the house 4 years ago, so it's really just to contain the yard. We have a small above-ground pool there as well, so it's just something we've always had and would like to keep from, just to prevent some security. We're not too far off Maple Road, so it's also nice to have a little bit of protection from people potentially wandering up there as well.
So I'll open this for public comment. Is anyone here who'd like to comment on this item? Close public comment, bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for dimensional variance at 4035 Blackthorn Court, I would move the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance of the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because it would require the removal of significant foliage on the property, which would also diminish the view and beauty of the land, which would be an injustice to the neighbors. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated, given that this is a replacement for an existing fence and a replacement with a better fence than the one that is existing and being replaced. Certainly, none of this is self-created. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year for the fence prior to its installation. At this point, I am not going to require the addition or the need for additional evergreen screening because this is replacing an existing fence.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling item 66080 Snowshoe Circle.
Good evening. Rick Van House from 6080 Snowshoe Circle. Looking to put a fence in for a new pool project, and I am a corner lot, so I have double frontage, and I am looking to put part of that fence along Gilbert Lake Road, which would be considered to us the side of our house, but to the township the front also. 4-foot high fence, metal. It's totally behind an entire wall of arbs that have been there for years. It's not going to be visible to anybody.
Okay, any questions from the board? Open this to the public for comment. Anyone like to comment? You can step to the podium and please share your comments with us. Give your name and address.
My name is Al Huberty. I'm at 6216. I'm at Hills Drive. I'm immediately behind. His picture that shows his rear does not show our house, and I submitted to the board. I don't know if you have copies in front of you, but this is the view out my backyard. So obviously the picture that was submitted with the application doesn't show the true relationship of our house to theirs. In the comments, if you've read them, that explains our concerns.
Our goal is not to stop a pool or to stop a necessary fence for security for the pool. It is to protect our home and our view, which has already been somewhat changed, certainly, and challenged. We've had to put in some very large evergreens already to block reflection of lights at night. We did at one time request that a light be either shaded or redirected, and the folks that live there, the Stolman, did try to redirect it for us. It helped somewhat, but there are several other lights. And now that large trees have been taken down, it has opened a tremendous amount of light that reflects directly into our home. The pictures that we sent to you, and I think you have them in front of you, the picture you're seeing is our view out of our library, our dining room, and our great room where we live, straight out, and you can see how directly in back of us that house is. In the winter, it's primarily deciduous back there, and it's wide open. In the summer, we do have more foliage out, that's true. Also, the home that is shown from the aerial view is the previous structure. There is indeed a new home there. So hopefully you have the pictures that we sent you. Okay, good.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
So your objection is to the fence as it goes along what I'm going to call the south property line?
Yes, that's correct.
The variance before us is for the fence on the east property line.
What is shown in the diagram is also a fence that goes along the back. If you go back up to the...
I'm just noticing, it's...
This, what's shown, that's our property line on the south side.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand,
So
but
that's
the issue is the variance, as I understand it, is for the fence on the east property line. The fence on the south property line is not something we're to consider?
That's correct. Could it be permitted at 4 feet
Yeah.
in the rear yard?
That's the only reason I was asking, so, okay. All right.
Since he stated that he plans to put in a pool project there, at what point in time would we get the screening to keep us, because we can see their playset from our windows.
I'm going to have to leave that up to,
But I mean, I can see their house.
I know.
I mean,
Well,
See
I'm
your
sorry,
Christmas.
you're not supposed to address your response to them, it comes to us. So they give their comments to us, we close the public hearing, and then you respond to us. So you'll have an opportunity to respond.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this? Does anyone else have any questions of the public comment? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and you can now respond.
I would just say I can see their house too, more so in the winter than not. I can see their Christmas tree in their, whatever room it is of their house. You know, we did dim the lights after the letter was sent. I mean, I'd like to try and work something out with them, regardless of this meeting, to see what we can do. But I didn't even know they were going to be here. I didn't know there was still a concern, so.
Okay, any questions from the board? All right, so you ready for a motion or further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move, excuse me, with regard to the request for dimensional variance at 6080 Snowshoe Circle, I'm going to move the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented to the applicant to demonstrate all the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because this is a secondary frontage that we're dealing with, and if Gilbert Lake Road weren't there, it would be a non-issue. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. Again, for the very same reason, this is a secondary frontage issue. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated because, again, this is a secondary frontage issue, which certainly is not self-created. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year for the fence and prior to installation. I'm going to add that additional evergreen screening is going to be required to screen the fence from public view along Gilbert Lake Road. And while you're at it, maybe there'll be some need for some screening on the south borderline, property line.
Can I ask questions or no?
Not during the motion.
Yeah, you can ask one. So we have a motion
Support?
and support. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Request is granted. Now you can ask your questions.
Just curious, the screening you want me to do on the east, there's already like 100 arborvitaes there, some of them 12 feet tall.
You don't need to tear them down and put up new ones.
Okay.
So as long as it's screened from public view,
Okay.
if the existing does that, then you've met the requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Calling next item, item 74117 Sunningdale.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Adams. My family and I live at 4117 Sunningdale. We moved in last summer, and we're seeking approval to replace an also dilapidated part wood, part chain link fence with, in this case, a height variance of 6 feet. I believe our property is a little unique in that our backyard neighbor, in this case to the east, is Way Elementary School, where they're building the new 2 buildings, the kindergartens, the multipurpose room, and hopefully a beautiful new playground. Additionally, along what is the green line on there, along my side property, the north side, is a public walkway to Way Elementary that the neighborhood kids, bikers, dog walkers, cat walkers, whoever wants to use. The only clarification since I first submitted this after working with the condo board that are along that green walkway is when I refer to it as a Way Elementary walkway, we did determine that the land is owned by the condos. There is no easement, so it's better to call it a Way Elementary walkway through the generosity of the Willow Way Drive condominium owners. That said, most of it has been closed essentially since we moved in due to the construction. It's about to reopen, so hopefully this will be a timely request to give me time to build a fence. The reason for the request is simple. We have 2 little kids, and with a 4-foot fence, everyone that walks along that walkway just looks right into the yard, can say hi to the kids, whatever else. But again, that's just the summary of the issue. I tried to watch a lot of these meetings on YouTube to get an idea of what to expect, so I know that you care more about me proving practical difficulty, so I'll try to do that as briefly as I can. If I can kind of take three of the items together, all of this is unique to me because of where we are located next to the elementary school. You can obviously see our property outlined in black there. There is kind of a forest, something like that, that starts that a few other properties have, but we're really the only one that share the public walkway and then a tiny little part of the yard that can see into the school's backyard. The rest of it is just overgrowth. You can't even walk through that. The deer find a way, unfortunately for me, but you can just go right through it. The two I think that are a little more relevant, and I do have some pictures if it's helpful, with regards to why the variance is fair to the other property owners, there are 5 condos along the back there. One of them is a little too far, 4115. They don't actually see the fence, but of course they're welcome to comment if anybody's here. For the other 4, we're very friendly with the 2 on the end next away. 4103 is my in-laws. I don't think they're going to be here to object. And 4109, we traded a few emails where I just said, hey, you got a letter. If you have any questions, please let me know. And she just responded, your other fence looks pretty, good luck. That being said, the big issue with this being fair to them, in my opinion, is that the current fence is not only dilapidated, it's falling apart. The grading of their land, which I'll show you, I can give you a few pictures. I have a flash drive if it's easier. But this is, if it's easier for a picture or a flash drive.
You just put it right on here.
Sure, all right. So this, if you're looking down the walkway going to school, that's my fence that it doesn't look like it's leaning as bad from here, but there's a brick fence / wall on the other side, and as you can see, it doubles as a retaining wall. The property of those condos is extremely high compared to mine. Luckily, we're friendly. I don't mind them, as they say, looking across my yard. They like the view. It's pretty. But as I'll show you in another photo, if their fence is anywhere from 6 inches to 24 inches taller, since it's brick, so it's stair steps, whereas mine is just kind of, well, it used to be straight. It's not anymore. So even with that increase in height, they're still going to just look right across there into the yard. And then the only other item in terms of practical difficulty is I don't believe the issue was self-created, since both of those fences and the walkway were there longer than I have been alive. The one challenge, when we first moved in, we looked at, is there any way for us to do anything with that space? But I think it included in the original presentation, that entire row are, 40, 50-foot evergreens that fence is 204 feet long. About 100 feet of it is very tall evergreens. There's a beautiful cherry or something tree there. And then the previous owner did plant a row of arborvitae on my side of the fence as you get a little farther back where they are now. So if we replace that with a 6-foot, sitting flat on the ground, the owners of all of those condos would look directly across a 6-foot fence and not at it. Right now, I just see a little bit of the top of the brick fence. Maybe I've got one other one that I think shows that a little bit. This is the...
Excuse me, does that...
Sorry, go ahead.
Does that brick fence extend as far as the wood fence?
It does. So both of those fences get into a gate that Way Elementary owns. It's currently locked and closed while they're doing the construction in the school grounds.
And who maintains that walkway? So in the winter, is that plowed by the condo association, or?
We're working on that now, because until I started down this path, we just all assumed that it was either Way's or there was an easement. In fact, when I took my son to kindergarten orientation, Way will say our walkway. They mean only where it ends at that gate, not that walkway.
Okay.
We're going to do one reason when we improve the fence. Right now, pine needles, dirt from my yard just fall through the fence now that it's been pushed up by snow and whatever else. We're hoping as that's resolved, we can work on stopping some of that from spilling over from my yard. That's why weeds are growing. But I've been working with the board president for the condos about the easiest way for us to together, me to maintain my side, them to maintain their side. The only other one I'll show in terms of the grading is this just shows, this is probably the most extreme height variance, where it switches to chain link for some strange reason. You can see a little bit at the very back where Way's fence begins. So I wanted to tackle this little sidewalk first, since it's kind of a traditional, even though it's strange that it's a public walkway on private land. At the end of the day, it is still owned by residential property owners. They're my neighbors. I believe they're all, as far as I know, supportive of this being replaced. I am going to build a board-on-board cedar fence, so as it ages, there will be no gaps. Put a cap and rail on the top of it so that it's hopefully an increase in style to the neighbors that, as they've stated, quote, they look down on my fence, not at it. Personally, I like the look of natural raw cedar. My wife prefers me to seal it with a pretty red stain. So we're going to compromise and seal it with a pretty red stain. So it'll match the brick a little bit and look a little better for them. I'll keep the way elementary part very short. That's the walkway.
So wait a minute,
Yep.
is the 6-foot fence that you're putting going to go exactly in the same location as the chain link fence?
It will, the exact same, the exact same
so
spot. That's a little blurry, I'm not sure what's going
Yeah, I
on
was
there.
going to say the arborvitae's may not be able to...
Well, so they get full, one of the challenges, and that's going to be a question, I guess, at the end of this, when I try to address screening after watching a lot of these on YouTube, I'm not sure how we can screen on that side since the sun comes across those arborvitaes. I'm sure it would kill anything. You can't see them, but above that brick fence are extremely tall evergreens, a couple deciduous trees, and then Way has their own. So it's hard to plant anything on that side without me going, I mean, I could go 3 feet on the other side of the arborvitae. It would probably kill them. But once you get to the first 100 feet of the walkway, you've got those 40, 50-foot tall pine trees that me and I hope the township would prefer me not to remove just in the sake of moving a fence over a few feet. Again, on the other side of that walkway, at this point, their yard is a little bit lower down. I don't know the height. I haven't walked over there, but they still are probably, I mean, if you look immediately over that wall, the 2 condos on the end, their decks and all windows are above what would be the height of the 6-foot fence, so I'm not worried about them staring at my fence. But they do have a little bit of privacy on their own. They're not standing at the wall's level, just to clarify what I said earlier about the grading. But it seems like that was, as far as we know, the gentleman that runs the board actually, we think the walkway was built when the school was built in the 60s. Condos came along in the 70s. There was already a walkway, so we believe they just put a retaining wall there to help with and keep it open to the public.
And how tall are those arborvitae that we're looking at?
10 to 12, depending on where you're standing.
Because typically the fence would be on the inside of those arborvitae.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take that space away from your yard.
And I mean, especially right there, I'm not opposed to moving on that side. In my mind, I don't know if they would die. 2,
if you stuck them on that side.
Right. I'm saying if I moved it to the other side, it's a little tricky for me, the fact that it is a public walkway, and I'm not trying to complain, but the 2 months that it was open when we moved in, I was occasionally picking up trash bottles, little things that were thrown. So people walking by, I don't know if they would mess with the trees. I'm not trying to accuse anyone of anything, but I'm not opposed to trying to route the fence on the other side of those arborvitae for that 50 feet, 100 feet.
Go ahead.
You commented that you wanted to replace a fence that's deteriorated.
Yes.
The chain link fence doesn't look deteriorated.
That one is just, it's not in the best shape. There's some stumps growing through it. Some of that is just the look of it.
I guess the reason I'm asking is that one of the pluses of what you have right there is that it's accomplishing 2 things. The first is it's providing the security that a fence provides, and at the same time the screening that 10 to 12-foot arborvitae provide. Taking out the chain link fence to put in 6 feet and possibly damaging the arborvitae in the process, to me, seems to be counterintuitive. I would be interested in seeing the portion that's being replaced where the wood is, because at this point, I'm not seeing a need to replace where the chain link is.
Sure.
And I thought you said you want people looking in and seeing your children. How would they do that?
Well, you can see a little bit.
Here I can...
So that's the part that's bending. As far as I can tell, those are not anchored in concrete. They're leaning quite badly. They're bending. There's probably 5 to 10 feet with no arborvitae. And it's, because they're not that tall, you can look through a little bit. Again, I'm less concerned about that part in the back of the yard. It really is that first 100 and some odd feet. Some of it was just the fact that it'll look nicer to have a nice, consistent fence the whole way. The cost is, I don't mind saving thousands of dollars by not doing it. And I did briefly consider routing it inside the arborvitae, but again, I have no idea if that would kill that side of them, because they would be in almost total shade, at least the bottom 6 foot or whatever. But we hadn't considered not doing that one little section just because it might look, we always thought, why did they stop here with a chain link and not, continue what probably at some point was a pretty fence. Okay. If I can, I'll briefly show you the Way elementary side, I'm happy to stay on the walkway if there's any more questions about that one part of it. I hope the Way side's a little easier. Whereas you probably can't tell that fence is in disrepair. Here's one section of the Way fence. There are trees going through it. For some reason, there's a lot of concrete leaning against it. And that's the part I showed you on the map that is, it's thick brush. There's probably only about 10 to 15 feet of open air between me and Way, and I have we haven't seen the new plans for the playground. So with this section of the fence, and I'll only switch just so you can see, that's the worst case. This is where I held my camera over the fence. So on the right is my chain link, and on the left is where it starts to have that overgrowth. All the way back into the fall and continuing until now, I've had just a couple of conversations with Way, but they deferred me to Mr. Jacob McDermott, who's the Director of Plant Services. He did come and walk the lot with me. We left it open with Way that, assuming it's approved, I would initially not stain or do anything with their side, if you want to say it that way, of the fence. We had talked briefly with the school, like, would they want me to prime it and let the students paint a mural? Do they want whatever decorations? You know, what if they were a residential neighbor and we were sort of sharing it, what would they want to see? They potentially liked the idea, but obviously have their hands full with a kindergarten and a multi-purpose construction and new playgrounds, and that's the last thing on their mind. So I left with Mr. McDermott that if it's approved, I will construct the fence. I will not stain it, paint it, prime it, or anything until I have a chance to follow up with them and say, do you want anything? If not, I'll just seal it and stain it. So in my mind, that's a little easier because it's not a walkway. It's overrun. I mean, you can barely see through there. I'm gonna have to go a foot at a time as I clear it out, trying to take the fence down. But I've got more of that fence, but it looks the same. It's just, that's the maybe 10 to 15 feet that's open and clear, right at the corner where the walkway meets Way Elementary.
Okay, I think we have a clear picture. Any questions from the board? I'll open this for public comment. Anyone would like to comment on this? Close public comment. So you do have a unique situation here. One part of the fence that you want to replace faces the school. It's going to have a new playground. Another's along a walkway. So, 6-foot fence isn't typically something that we approve, but in this case, I think you've got some mitigating factors. I would just say there's that one section with the arborvitae on it that would be unfortunate, but you do. We don't often approve 6-foot fences, but I think there's some mitigating factors here. That's just what
I see
my
mitigating.
observations. Yeah.
Definitely see the
I
factors.
just, as an observation also, was wondering if that 6-foot fence along the walkway to the school might be a little oppressive for little people. Like,
Right.
the wall on the one side's pretty tall. It's not that wide. I'm just curious, with the amount of arborvitaes and screening that you do have, albeit on the other side, whether you really need the 6-foot fence there. And it's pretty tight for.
Right.
That is a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Just looking at that
It's almost
one
like
picture.
it becomes like a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it's privacy. And again, it's been tricky because the walkway has not been open most of the time we've lived here, but people have been curious, and now we see a lot more bikes and people walking through.
Well, and if they've put in a new playground, you're probably
there's
more
going to be too much
traffic.
and it's just tricky. Not that this is, when we're in the backyard, but from the first, 50 feet or so of it, where those evergreens are so tall that some of the branches have lifted up well above the fence, and you just look right in there's an addition on the back of the house that's the kids' playroom. You just look right in. We've put some blinds up and things, but it's just a little bit less. That patio's right there. So it was over the last year that more and more we've started saying, okay, this is a little tricky with the amount of traffic we expect on that walkway once they open the new playgrounds up.
Can that space be filled with arborvitaes or,
That one, not
sweater-
without. This is that row kind of in front of the green. They're enormous. And a couple of those are on my property and a couple are on the neighbors, but they're 40, 50 feet tall. There are, to the far left, there's a string of, I think they're the green giant arborvitae that are 20, 30 feet tall, mixed in with pine trees.
But your plan would be to sort of clear away all the overgrowth and put up the 6-foot fence wherever you can.
On the back, I will have to clear that. There's no way to get that fence down.
But what
without
along the
doing so.
walkway? Because the
walkway, there's nothing in front of the fence now. The evergreens, in some cases, come almost to the fence, and in other cases are, let me see if I have a closer picture to help that rather than me. Now I got two. At the very beginning of the fence, sorry, making you jump around there. At the very beginning of the fence, and I'm guessing where you start to see that real dark, at that part of it, that's probably 15 feet. There are some very large arborvitae there, which is almost 100% screen. It's really, once you get to this section, I'm just guessing this is 100 to 120 feet where it's much more open. It's just my opinion personally, when you look at the height of the brick wall, I don't believe 2 feet would really darken that up so much. The sun goes directly across, this view is east to west, so the sun passes.
Would it be about
tall is
even
that
then?
fence?
Yeah, would it be about even then?
That fence is 4 feet
That's a
tall,
4-foot
and the
fence.
fence across the way will vary from about 6 inches taller than mine. I think the absolute high point is right at 2 feet, but that's not, I don't mean to imply that they have a 6-foot fence. It's not 6 feet most of the way. It's probably an average of about a foot higher. Because you can see, well, you can't in that picture, but that brick fence kind of stair steps down every, 8 to 10 feet. So right when they stair step down, I'm closer in line, since mine at one point was straight. When they stair step up, all of a sudden they're 2 feet higher than me or something like that, 1.5 feet. So regardless of what I do with the fence, in my opinion, the dark areas are dark. They're only dark because of the 12-foot arborvitae in the back and the 20-foot arborvitae in the front. In my mind, again, I'm just 2 additional feet in that middle 100 feet is not going to just destroy. My kids are going to go there. The one thing I talked about with the condo board, this is not necessarily a place in this packet. If we want this to be a walkway that the public enjoys, I've talked to them about, do we put some Christmas decorations in the trees? What can we do? My kids are going to walk it every day. Is it some holiday lights? We don't want it to be something where we're saying, this is a compound, don't look in our yard, as opposed to just a reasonable amount of privacy so that literally every person walking is not looking right on our back of our house and, everything the kids do and, asking me, how tall are those tomatoes, because they're getting there. So.
All right, so I think we got a clear picture of the request and the need and the, so. No, I thought I did. I'll open this for public. Yeah, I did.
Public hearing?
Yeah, I did public hearing. Nobody.
All right. I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah.
Is it?
Would you take a 5-foot fence?
To be honest, I would rather not, only because it doesn't stop. I'm 5'9". I would be looking right over it, and the cost we would incur between demolition and putting up this is.
You want to go all the way? Okay.
It's 360-something feet of linear feet of fence, so the cost is significant to just. I honestly probably wouldn't do it just because it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't help the privacy.
Okay.
Really.
What about I know we went going back to the chain link area with the tall arborvitae. Would you consider 6 feet up into that point and then possibly saving some dollars and just a.
We would. I don't know why it sticks with me on the way the walkway looks, because I'm only walking it to take my kids to school or go to the playground. I originally liked the uniform. To me, it looks better to have a nice, it's beautiful. It's going to look very nice when it's completed. Just the idea that it looks the same all the way through when people walk by. I wanted to say, why did this? The question I've had all along is, why did they run a chain link fence for half their yard? And everyone's going to ask me that. But I understand. I completely understand.
It's just a good question.
If those arborvitae were not there,
That someone's wife wanted that. That's what I'm guessing. That's what happened.
If the arborvitae weren't there at all, and I was like, okay, I'm literally stealing 2 feet of sunlight here, and then I don't know, because again, I'm going to throw a lot of money at, that's got to be 100 feet of fence right there. And I think it's just, for some reason, when people walk by my fence, I want them to say, this is a nice property. They've done a good job. It looks nice. This is a well taken care of walkway. That's why me and the condo owners are working together on how to keep it looking
And what's the color again?
It's all western red cedar. I'm going to stain it something that brings out just a little bit of red so that it looks like the brick, as close to the brick wall as possible. Similar to that. And there'll be no gaps. It's not going to age. The problem now is it's that cap on top keeps the boards perfectly in line, and then there's a piece of trim that stops any pickets from wobbling as it ages. Board on board, of course, means there's 3 inches between the pickets that are covered. So 20 years from now, unlike the current fence, it's going to look like that. All stainless steel hardware. There's not going to be any of those nasty lines that bleed. I do care when people walk down the pathway that they think this is a nice neighborhood, this is a nice walkway. We're glad it's here since it's on private land. Hopefully they never shut it down.
You're not going to be able to screen that on the.
No, he's not going to be able to screen. That's what I'm saying is because I asked if he could put it on the inside and doesn't want to do that, so.
Because typically we require, first of all, let me just congratulate you. You did some tremendous amount of homework. You get an A+ tonight.
And I'm frightened to watch YouTube videos of this.
Oh, no, I
didn't know what I was walking into, and
I have a lot of respect for that.
There's some heat in some of them, and it's interesting when you
well
get to
prepared.
one and people stand up.
So kudos. I don't know if your wife is here, but she should be proud of you.
She's at home. Actually, she's probably putting the kids down right now.
But typically we require you to screen the fence, and so I think that's part of the challenge. You have adequate screening on one point. I know it's not beautiful aesthetically and things like that, and it's already above, the green wall is already above 6 feet, so it provides a lot of privacy, and it already has a fence. So that's the struggle, is that you're
It's a
not
very
going to...
public walkway.
By the other side of that argument is that because of the purpose for this, screening the fence actually creates a security issue, in my opinion, because it provides an opportunity for somebody to hide someplace. This doesn't allow anybody to hide anywhere. And while along a public walkway that's in the middle of a neighborhood, et cetera, I feel far differently. One of my concerns is trying to figure out how to keep those who use this safe. It's 360 feet of closure on both sides, providing an opportunity for those who use it to be safe, not just during daylight hours, but in the evening, is something that I'm concerned about. And so, as much as I would typically want to see screening from public view, I think in this instance, that actually creates a safety hazard.
Thank you. I did spend some time Googling what plants go with.
My difficulty is trying to figure out what to do with that chain link. But frankly, it's your cost for the landscaping.
Right.
It's far more expensive on your part.
Yeah, and he's going to lose the arborvitae if it doesn't work, so.
Can you edit that part out for my wife so that she
wants
isn't
uniformity.
saving me money when you...
He wants uniformity, and if we're saying don't have to put the screening on the outside, then we can go, so I think
All right, I've been trying to figure out what I was going to do.
we're balancing a lot of things here, so.
With that having been said, Mr.
Let her rip.
Chairman,
You can do it, Bob.
Am I
Come
still
on.
on the right one?
Yeah.
Are we still in Sunningdale? Yes,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Chairman, with regard to the request for dimensional variance at 4117 Sunningdale Drive, I'm going to move the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty and, in fact, done an excessive amount of homework. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome. I do believe that it is important to provide this as a safety feature for the walkway that is in place and for the utility that it is in place to accommodate. There is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors, and in fact, they are the ones who will be utilizing it, and for what it's worth, the only adjoining neighbor is the gentleman making the request for all intents and purposes. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated given the utility of this and its use. And I don't believe this is self-created. The walkway has existed for many years, and there does not appear to me to be a better way to provide safety and utility for those who would wish to use this. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year for the fence and prior to its installation. I am not going to require evergreen screening. Support?
I have a motion and support. Any discussion?
I won't be voting yes. I really think a 6-foot-high fence is going to make
Too
a
high.
very narrow,
Okay.
tight
Thank you for
space
sharing that.
kids.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
So your request is granted.
Thank you.
Okay. Calling the next item. Item 8, 3773 Lake Crest.
Good evening, Aiden Calabat of Calabat Engineering on behalf of the property owner, Dr. Imad Nakash. So we're here humbly requesting your approval of 3 variances. One for an existing patio, not immediately adjacent to the residence, with 3-foot-high walls, and 4 6-foot-high corner columns. I want to put a correction on the record. There is no illumination. We haven't shown any illumination on the plans. There's an email request back to us asking for clarification. We provided clarification that there is no illumination on this patio at all. So I want to reiterate that because I know that with illumination on retaining walls and screen walls, that there's a lot of questions and concerns that come up with that. as far as direction and type and style and glare from adjoining property. So there's no lighting proposed on these piers. They are, and I think we actually have a few pictures, updated pictures too, that show the completed landscaping in the backyard. So as you can see, that those are the stone, all stone round pillar caps that kind of flank the patio area. The unique characteristic for this property is that this is one of the only properties on this natural feature on Crest Lake that does not directly, where the main property does not directly face the lake. The rear yard of it faces kind of an association maintained pump structure, and then his property turns towards the end, and his view of the lake, you know, if you see on this picture, the edge of that side of that patio pointing at his neighbor is parallel with the back of his house and with the front edge of his lot, and you'll see that the lake is actually, you know, more along the side view of his rear lot than it is the actual rear view. So as such, they wanted to create an area on a steep slope where they could enjoy the view of the lake, have a little bit more function in their yard where they can enjoy the natural feature as the main decks have somewhat a view, given that they're elevated, but again, it's, you know, corner view looking through, you know, trees growing from the properties on both sides of it. Also, there was comments submitted, which I saw in the packet tonight, and I just wanted to clarify and address one of the items that one of the residents had brought up with respect to, it seemed like they were concerned with the clearance of trees on the lot and my client's change of the natural features on the lot. And I just wanted to kind of point to one of the items in the package. If you look at, there's an aerial view. Can you flip to this one? Yeah. So that's the aerial view of the property before you purchased it. So you can see that the property was bare of all trees and things like that in the backyard. So there was no, you know, my client did not go in and clear a bunch of trees in that backyard. There was select removal of some trees in the front yard, some of the ones in and around the circle, which were all documented during the plot plan and construction of the house. And they had an approved landscape plan with tree replacements for those you know, frontage trees. And they've actually exceeded that with the amount of trees that they planted in the end along the sides and in the rear of the property as well too. So a couple of notes that I wanted to just kind of clarify. The other two items are with respect to 6-foot-high retaining wall located less than 8 feet from the property line. Unfortunately, during construction, there were some discrepancies with the side slope from the neighbor to this property, and with the survey elevations showed that sloping condition from when they actually found them in the field. So the retaining wall actually had to grow a bit because of some spot elevations and topo contours, which were not accurately, you know, triangulating between one another. So when they got in there, they to construct what would have been a 3-foot-high retaining wall, it ended up being 6 foot high due to the existing grading conditions. I'm not sure how that one was missed when we surveyed the lot, but sometimes the surveyors don't go very far into the neighboring lots to pick up a lot of those conditions. So the existing side yard neighbor has reviewed it. They haven't had any objections. We've been in contact with the homeowner regarding that retaining wall, and it's really just to hold up a majority of their neighbor's earth. As their neighbor's lot kind of slopes up and then back down, they've got a flatter lot which has been sloping, gently sloping down the entire way. So the grading conditions of the two lots always necessitated. I think there was an existing natural retaining wall that came in with the previous home, but that retaining wall extended pretty far into the lot as the previous home was situated much further back before it was demolished. So that, with the positioning of the house, the retaining wall was a lot closer to the property line there. The third one is for the approval of disruption of natural features in the rear yard. Due to the extreme slope that he has in his backyard, his backyard kind of tapers off very gently, and then as it turns, it slopes extremely steeply down to the natural feature. You can kind of see some of the sloping conditions here, but it's much steeper towards the lake. So during construction, when that upper area of the house was disturbed and the earth was disturbed, we've had a lot of heavy rainfall events, and maintaining erosion control basically started at the top of that ridge, kind of where the patio is right now. During the course of construction, Mother Nature and erosion are a powerful force sometimes, and we've had to build additional, at one point they had 7 or 8 lines of silt fencing, creeping further and further down because it just kept eroding, and the top fence lines would be in need of repair pretty often. So per the Oakland County Water Resource Commission, they had to construct several tiers of erosion control fencing in order to maintain that problem. They were able to prevent any erosion down into the actual natural feature, but as such, at the direction of the Water Resource Commission, they had to put about 3 silt fence lines within 25 feet of that natural feature down at the bottom of that slope, because it kind of slopes down and then tapers, flattens out at the bottom there. So the request is that when they did do that, there was staking originally for the natural feature setback. That staking, that area tends to grow. Control guys, and they went into that natural feature setback just a bit with their erosion control fencing. So the variance is to basically stabilize the area that was disturbed by the erosion control and the erosion control fencing up into it.
So that says 25 feet, so are you going to stabilize the entire area? What are you putting additional soil in there, or vegetation? What does the stabilizing mean?
So just seeding and topsoil, or sod and seed, basically, to the areas that they've actually done that permanent stabilization is complete. But at the time that stabilization encroached into the natural feature setback limit, which was a course of the construction. They're not seeking to further clear any of the existing natural feature area to make way for anything additional.
No, that's right, but I think it'd be helpful to understand. So when you, because what it says is you want to encroach up to 25 feet for placement of topsoil, sod, and erosion stabilization. Is that going to be in the entire area, or just a portion of it?
Just the portions that were disturbed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is approximately how much? How many? It's probably better to
kind
know.
of wavered in and out.
Okay.
It extended a couple feet here and there. I'd say at the most it was about 5 feet past the natural feature setback line.
That's all. I just kind of want to picture, because sometimes you read it and there's a conclusion. Okay. Anything else from the board? Open for public comment. Is there anyone like to comment on this? Sure. You can state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Gwen Gilbert. I'm at 3672 Walbury. You had my home is the back of his lot. And as I was listening to him, there were some misrepresentations made that I'd like to clarify before I speak. First, he indicated that the property was not on the water. It is a riparian property. Secondly, he also indicated that there weren't any old growth trees that were taken down. That's not true. There were many old growth trees that were taken down. And what happened was that it is basically clear-cutted, and then grass was replaced. Thirdly, he also indicated that there wasn't any runoff into the lake. We had probably 2 years of mud going into the lake, as it still is under construction for the last probably 3 years. So I've been living at this property for 33 years. I've seen a lot of change happening as far as the woods being taken down. I have been in front of this board from a previous owner, and what he was interested in doing was putting in a pergola. The board at this time, the zoning board, indicated that this is a natural area, needed protection, and he was denied doing the pergola. Now we see that he had indicated that it was an existing patio. That was some concrete that he's put in under construction as well. I'm happy to hear that he's not considering putting in lights. He's got 12 huge LED lights in the eaves that makes daylight, and the whole lake is lit up. So I don't think lights are of interest. We discussed that, and he has turned the lights off. So I'm hoping that continues. Yep. So one thing I wanted to tell the board about is that we are next to a wetland. I've had the DEQ down there, and they have indicated that this is one of the most pristine wetlands in the area. His house is adjacent to the wetland. He's discussing putting in the retaining walls next to the wetland. I think you should consider that the wetland exists. I think you should also consider that there was a precedent made by the zoning board that this area was to be preserved and the sanctity of the nature and the surrounding area that has changed significantly. So those are the two things that I want to address, as well as the misrepresentations that were made.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item?
I think it's raining out.
There's nature for you.
Raining.
I live, Sandra Yaroslav. I live at 3690 Walbury Drive. I live right on that wetland. I also have had the deer are over there because, hey, it's a beautiful wetland. And by the way, he cut down hundreds of trees. I stood there and watched it happen. So there were hundreds of trees cut down to put in this house, which, you know, it's on his property and there's nothing we can do to stop it. The land was eroding. It started raining. Huge flows of mud and stuff were flowing down into the lake. I mean, I've been living in the property for since 1980. I've lived in the property I live in, so I know what happens back there. And you know, it's just disturbing that, you know, I'm not an engineer. I just happen to live there and I watch what's happening. And I've been paying taxes in this township for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that'd like to comment on this item? So I'll close the public hearing and have the applicant respond to any of the comments from the public.
Yeah, so again, I kind of want to clarify. The picture that you're seeing right now is the aerial picture of the property condition when my client bought the property. So there were some trees that were cut down during the construction, but not at the mass that some would have you believe. And the proof is there.
Just to sort of help frame, we're considering a variance request for existing patio, 6-foot-high retaining wall, and then disruption of the natural feature setback. So that's what we're considering tonight.
Correct. Yeah, I just wanted to address some of their concerns. But
okay.
With respect to the natural feature setback, an additional clarification, it's not with respect to the wetland that they're referring to. It's with respect to Crest Lake. There was extensive erosion, was a massive problem during construction. I can attest to that. We have the Oakland County Water Resource Commission erosion control inspector is like on speed dial. I mean, he was out there after every single rainfall event inspecting the silt fences, and that was one of the reasons why that silt fence and erosion construction continued to progress down the hill of this property. In order to combat it and avoid that problems, they constructed a retaining wall in front of the patio area. That retaining wall is not on the agenda because there's no...
Could you just, with the pointer, sort of approximately show us the location of the patio on that map?
You're going to switch to the plot plan maybe?
Yeah, or maybe the
Yeah.
plot plan would help. I'm kind of curious just from...
So again, the variance request is on this retaining wall here next to the neighbor.
Okay.
The patio area is sitting here, and the patio is considered an accessory structure because the way it's constructed, the back of the patio is at grade, and there's a couple steps down in, so there's a retaining wall back here, and there's a retaining wall at the front of it. And
So that makes it a structure.
So it makes it an accessory structure.
And the yellow area is the natural.
The yellow area here is the natural, and the hatching, the kind of dotted hatching you see in there represents the area that we were talking about stabilizing, which has been stabilized. I want to make clear that that has already been stabilized.
So that's done.
Done, correct. The retaining wall that I'm talking about is here in between, outside the natural feature setback, within the property setback distance.
Very helpful.
And that's a 34-inch high retaining wall. It was crucial to put that in because, again, erosion has been a massive problem.
You showed us the slope. Yep, we get it. Okay. Is there any other questions from the board? Did you get a picture of?
I have a question. When you got your initial permits for this house, was some retaining wall proposed on the side of the driveway there? And
yes, it was.
zoning board approval for it?
Actually, I don't believe there was a retaining wall proposed on that side over there. I think that it was, and I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. If it was a natural, like, low wall less than 30 inches.
So the 4-foot high became necessary?
Yeah, as they went to construct
out to the site
to construct the driveway, you
saw you were going to need more support than what you originally thought. Okay.
And at the request of the building department, they've already installed fence and aluminum fencing along the high side of that because portions of it do exceed the ordinance requirement for fall protection. So they provided that at the top of the wall there, and he coordinated that with his adjacent neighbor. They didn't have any issues with that.
Okay, any other questions from the board? I think we have a clear picture of the site and the buckets of requests that we have. Any other quick questions or concerns that people have? So this would be the time to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the dimensional variance request at 3773 Lakecrest Drive, I move the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the topography of the property, the need to stabilize the natural feature setback, and the grading differentials that have been encountered on what appears to be a rather challenging lot for a home, at least situated as this one is. I don't believe there's an injustice to the adjoining neighbors. In fact, I believe that what's been proposed stabilizes the property, which is a plus for the community. I'm very familiar with the lake, having sold several houses on Lake Crest down at the end. It is a beautiful lake, and I have to admit that it is one of the most pristine in the township, if not in the state. Unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated. Certainly the topography has been a challenge, and the 100-year rains every other week have become a problem, certainly in trying to stabilize property. So I again understand why the encroachments into the natural feature setback were required, and none of this is self-created. Neither the topography nor the climate are anything that can be controlled by the applicant. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year. All permits must be obtained prior to installation. And I'm not certain, based on what I'm viewing here, that there's a need for evergreen plantings, although I'm open to suggestion.
I don't think we need it.
All right.
Support?
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I oppose.
So everyone opposed?
Thank you, board.
Yeah, your request is granted. So did you get the opposing vote?
Yes.
Okay. On to the next item. Item 9, 1808 Ward Road.
My name's Larry Williams. I'm the owner of 1808 Ward. And we are actually making a proposal for no changes, just adding a garage, probably the only place on our land that it can be. We've met all the setback requirements and open for any questions. And this is my architect, so.
Thank you for that succinct and helpful presentation. Any questions? Open this to the public for comment. You can come forward and state your name and address. So
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
we have a public comment, so if you'll step aside from the microphone. We have someone that would like to give us some feedback.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chris Elkins. I'm the owner of 1801 Ward. I'm directly across from the home here. And I was just interested in terms of the garage, the construction type. I'm just seeing it now for the first time in some of the drawings here. I was concerned if it was going to be, for example, a 2x4 16 on center that would support the residential aesthetic that's already there, as opposed to, let's say, a pole barn, because the dimensions were rather large and I could see possibly something. So I was curious about the construction type and what was allowed. My second question, although it may be answered here, is was it going to be reverse gable to the street, which would mirror the home and also would take some of that 14-foot masked away in terms of the height. So those were my two questions.
Thanks very much. The applicant will have a chance to respond to those. Is there anyone else who would like to make comment on this? So I'll close the public hearing and ask the applicant to come back and respond to those two questions. Or the architect can, or?
Sure. As far as the reverse gable, we went with the gable roof because he needs a, I believe it was a 10-foot high garage door, 9-foot high garage door, and putting a reverse gable on it wouldn't be conducive to that garage door. And the other item was, pardon?
Building materials?
Oh, the building material is going to be a vinyl siding. The owner purchased the home recently and is going to end up remodeling the rest of the house to complement the garage that he's putting
the
up.
material will be the same or match? Or
Yeah, it'll end up being match. It won't be the blue.
Won't be blue? Okay.
No.
What color will it be? Do we know?
White.
White, okay. Any other questions from the board?
But the home will remain blue, but the garage will be white?
Temporarily.
But ultimately?
The house will ultimately
also
be
go
white.
They're going to match the house.
Yep.
Okay. I had just a quick question. I appreciate you're trying to span the short dimension and keep it not too high, but my question was about the roof pitch, maybe matching closer to the house. I noticed the drawings you're showing a 312, and I'm not even sure you should put asphalt shingle on a 312. I think a 412 is bare minimum, and just wondering if actually a steeper pitch would match the house better.
Well, again, with the 9-foot door on it, it makes it a challenge to
meet the 14-foot height.
And the 14-foot maximum peak height.
Any other questions? Discussion? Motion? Detached garage. We got to push to the finish line here, so let's get some energy. Come on.
Get the coffee going.
Yeah, come on, you can do it.
I can make a motion.
I'll make a motion, so you guys got to do it.
Okay.
Pull us home here.
In regards to the appeal at 1808 Ward Road, for the accessory structure garage, I move the request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards because the garage accessory structure is appropriate to the neighborhood, as most houses in the neighborhood enjoy a garage. It doesn't exceed maximum height. It meets setbacks. It's just just barely there for 50% of the house square footage, and I think that it's something that is a need. If approved, the motion must include application for all necessary permits, must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction, and a single-family affidavit must be submitted as well.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, request is granted.
Thank you.
Calling item 10, 5095 Brookdale.
Good evening. I'm Trey Bryce. I'm an attorney with Taft, Stettinius, and Hollister. It was Jaffe the last time I was here. We merged with another firm in January, representing the homeowner at 5095 Brookdale, seeking 12 variances. It sounds somewhat like a big number, but most of it really, if we look at it, it's a reconfiguration project. Most of these, a lot of them were approved when we were here in December of 2021. But after getting into the project, some of the plans have changed, neighbor input, site conditions, so we've kind of readjusted some of where some of the things are going, and then there are a few new ones as well. Wanted to point out before we really got into it, the list has 13. The third one talks about a 14-foot mesh screen for the basketball court. We're not seeking that. The 10-foot that was granted in December, we're staying with. Similarly, then the next one, the screen for the trampoline park is just 10 feet, not 14 feet.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
And, and the second one, where it says 7-foot walls around the trampoline park, there are no walls. I think there's looking at the plan, and we can get into it, there were
That's
hedges.
extremely helpful, too.
There were hedges.
You're getting some good momentum here, Trey. Very good.
So I can see how they look like walls because they're square, but those are hedges.
Okay.
You're off to an exceptional start.
Just kind of a quick recap. Remember, it's a very unique piece of property, 13 acres, used to be 8 lots, combine them into one per the ordinance requirements. Lot coverage, even with the stuff that we've done, is about 12%, maybe it's extended up to 13, so there's a huge piece of property, lots of land. Most of it is being preserved. Everything here is it's a residential property, it's just for owners and guests. We understand, even though one of these things will require any affidavits for residential use, we are expecting and ready to do. So to kind of go through them one by one, the first one is a sports court is listed. It's really a tennis court.
Would that be helpful for the board? Probably helpful for the board. Can you point it out a little bit?
So this is right here.
Okay.
It's just tennis court and pickleball court. That is new, and requesting a 10-foot net. Actually, so anywhere it says 14, we're going 10. So that's 10-foot netting as well, right here. That spot is where the trampoline area used to be. So the trampolines now have moved up here. And as we have said, that it's a hedge. We are looking for a 10-foot screen just inside the hedge. Part of it is a dodgeball area just to keep the balls from getting stuck in. The hedges is also a little bit of safety, so hopefully nobody flies off, but you don't fly off into the middle of a hedge.
So that's on the north property line?
Yes. So this is north up here.
And that's a mesh netting then, the 10-foot? Is that what you're...
Well, yeah, it's not. I'm sorry. Maybe that wasn't your question. It's not on the property. The property line is up here.
But I'm saying it's along the north.
Yes, the north side.
To catch balls or, okay.
And actually, so the net is inside all of it. Then I think the north here was kind of saying it was put in the north part of the property.
I got it, but it's in the north section there, and it's going to catch balls from heading north.
I think the nets are completely on inside all of the hedges.
Okay. Yeah, no, I got that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it was, yeah. I knew they wouldn't be on the property line. Got it.
Trampoline screen. And then the next, oops, it's not working. The trampoline park was, as we said, previously approved. It was just down here, so it's not actually, it's a new location.
And again, that's the 10-foot screen around that, not, because
Not
I'm
14,
looking
correct. It's a 10-foot hedge, and there'll be a 10-foot screen inside the hedge.
So I'm looking at this memo from May 11th from Andrew Perrin. He's got a list in there, and in there, so all the mesh screening that he's listed as 14 feet is now 10.
Correct.
So what is still 14 feet? So it says shredding fitness hill?
So the 14-foot, we have the climbing wall, the waterfall feature, the gates going into the Enchanted Forest. Most of this, as I said, we're moving some pieces around, and we created this Enchanted Forest area back here, which has several of the elements that are listed.
So does this site plan that we're looking at not really lay out everything that you're just now describing?
It lays out everything that we're describing. So here's the tennis courts.
In the location that
Yes,
you're proposing?
that we're
Okay,
proposing.
so where is the Enchanted Forest then? It's
Enchanted
up in-
Forest is this area back here.
Okay.
And the Enchanted Forest though, is broken out into elements. We're calling it the Enchanted Forest, but it has the reflecting pool, and it
Gotcha.
has the tree house, and it has...
And all that's within, so where's the reflecting pool?
So the reflecting pool is right here.
Okay,
And that darker circle, that's the tree house.
okay. And climbing walls?
The climbing walls are in here.
Okay,
The overlook wall is right here, which basically is just connects to the treehouse at grade. There's a wall on this side as well.
Susan, would it be helpful to bring this up close for you? It's colored, the color.
what the heck, you brought it, sure, yeah.
You seem to be squinting.
It's on the screen. It's on the screen.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is actually live,
But, yeah, nobody else will be
so
able to
no
see
one else
it.
will be able to view it.
Okay,
You want me to set that real quick?
Actually, if you use the pointer on the screen behind you, it's real easy.
well, it's just that's got coloring in it, which
Yeah.
helps a little bit.
Except for nobody else can see it.
No, I know, but,
This
If the
one they
board
can
just wants to be able to view it in your own, but still it's reflective of what is in the
Yeah.
packet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is just that
it's what's up on the screen, other than this has
Yeah, I mean-
green outline, it kind of frames things a little.
I'd help you with those because I have them at the office. They're a pain.
We can build things, but we can't get up an easel.
Okay,
Made of them,
wow. Okay,
That one's not dimensional,
yeah.
not proportional. That's just, that piece is, that one is just that top.
Right, I see.
Those rows of.
Yeah, that's the northeast, that's the one section up at the top there. Okay.
Yes.
All right, you know, you can take them down, I don't want to block the view, of everybody, but I mean, that helps, so that,
You guys can sleep behind us.
yeah. You know, we don't want to be hidden from the public. Transparency. Okay. So I think, are there 3 sets of 14-foot gates then? Can you
Yeah. if
show
we
us
can-
where those are?
So here, here is, so you can look this, and we'll go back to where they're located. So there's the treehouse. The 14-foot wall is right back here, it's called the overlook. This is what the gate looks like, and it's just the gate. These are attached to hedges.
And so that overlook is not like, it said it was a platform, so it's hard to see that there, and I looked at it, you know, with the pictures here. Is that just sort of a walkway, a sloping walkway up to
Up to the treehouse.
Okay, so the viewing point is from the treehouse then, the platform?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no additional, you know, flat area that's,
They're asking about the portion that goes into the reflecting pool?
no, it says wood deck overlook.
Yeah.
Is the wood deck overlook the,
So I might even have been following
is that something?
We have the existing, I don't know if you recall when we were in a few years ago, we have the existing treehouse.
Yes,
It on the second floor of the treehouse, you could walk out, there's a balcony, and you could go down the slide. So
Yes, I remember the
you
slide.
Walk out, and you could also walk along a little deck, and you could kind of, it's a lookout. So it's an extension of what's existing. When we move it, we're just gonna add something to it.
Watch the train go by.
Yeah. So I seem to recall, wasn't there a batting cage before?
That's been moved.
Yeah.
Where is the batting cage still somewhere then?
It's still there.
So here, the batting cage is here.
Okay.
It was up where the trampolines were,
Yes.
so actually we've moved it further away from the property line.
Okay.
As Winter said, there's the tree house, which used to be in the other portion of the property. Talked about the overlook. So the gates, got one here.
And that's 14 feet,
Correct.
is that right? Okay.
And there's one here along these paths, and the paths are crushed stone. They aren't paved or anything like that. And the third one is right here at the kind of walking into the entrance,
Okay.
flanked by those big hedges that you saw, just to kind of create the feeling of the enchanted forest. You're going to the kids are going into something fun, kind of has separates it so it feels like you've, I don't know, stepped into Never Never Land or something like that.
You're in another world. It's enchanted.
Exactly. So we've mentioned the reflecting pool is here.
It's really.
Is it off the treehouse?
Go back a little, right to the north of that, a teeny bit. There's a little square. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The water kind of spills down. It's
Which is also where the waterfall, the 14-foot wall with the waterfall, it cascades down into here, into the pool.
And that's still 14 feet, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
The play equipment and climbing wall, those are all in here in this area. Which used to be up, the equipment used to be up here, and now it's been moved into here. Yeah. And so then the last two we've got, we haven't pinpointed a spot particular, is some additional art sculptures. There were 5 approved when we were here in December, just looking for more approval. It's obviously a giant property. We're going to have art spread out across the property.
So wait a minute. How many more pieces of art? I mean, usually we approve a location. We don't just sort of say, hey, we'll give you 5 more pieces of. Are they 14 feet too? 14 seems to be a common theme.
An additional 14.
Yeah.
Additional 14-foot high art pieces. It doesn't say A, how many, or B, where.
We actually,
So typically we don't approve something that vague.
we actually have on the plan.
Okay. So how many and where?
So it's 4.
4, okay.
And there's the tree house. One is
4 additional?
correct.
Okay.
So that would be a total of how many art pieces?
So this, and 5 was approved in December, so 9.
9, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So it's right about here. This doesn't have as many trees on the picture, but it's right about there. Right on the bottom of the enchanted.
Are these all marked on the plan, so?
Yes.
All right.
They have them.
Over there, and then the last one is here.
Okay, got it.
And then the last, and so you said most of those are stuck in with this. So the last one is just redesigning what we've been called the conservatory and the studio, and they're showing the plans here. It is, and part of it requests an 18-foot ridge line, which it was previously approved with 18 feet. Just the idea would change some of the plan to use it to have a little more indoor studio use for days that they can't be doing all of the fun stuff because of weather, winter, things like that.
And where is, I can go back to the other, where is that located on the conservatory is located where?
It is right here.
Okay, right in the front, okay.
Which it was already same location.
And is there, I think there's already a basketball court on the property now. Is that staying?
Yes, that's right here.
Well,
Oh, wait, the one on the,
the one that's literally on the property now.
Today?
Is not staying.
It's not staying, so that's going, and then this is going to be the new one?
This, yeah.
Okay.
That position was approved
Okay.
before. And so really, we said a lot of it is relocating as much as asking for new items, redesigning the conservatory. Something to point out as well is part of this is we have removed some elements that were previously approved. There was a cabana on this side. There was a gazebo that was right about here. And we mentioned that the play equipment. What?
Cabana was moved and made smaller.
It made smaller to where.
Still a cabana.
Yeah.
Well, what was redesigned on the conservatory? What do you mean by redesigned?
In the prior approval, it was a glass walls, glass ceiling, kind of gazebo on the top. Everything was glass because it was going to be more of the true kind of conservatory idea. Now that we want to use it a little more for studio, we need walls and some roof to close it in both better with somewhat for the elements as well as stop some of the sunlight.
Yeah, before it almost looked like a greenhouse, I remember. It was
Correct.
quite, yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
Patty, I have a question. Is there any reason we should be concerned? I mean, this is a pretty spectacular development, I have to
It's
to admit.
enchanted.
It's
enchanted.
My question is there any reason we would need to be concerned about the metal gates that are being located interior to the property? Normally, we would need some kind of hold harmless, but that's entrance to the property. I'm
It's
not
internal.
seeing anything that would cause me to be concerned. I'm articulating in my head anyway that the metal gates and piers are a decorative entity within the beast, so to speak, as opposed to a functional purpose as you would have on a perimeter.
That's correct.
It's probably
correct.
separating these different elements that you have, or kind of
Correct.
showing, one activity's ending, and now you're going from trampoline to whatever. Okay, got it.
Yep. And so another thing to also point out is as part of this, we're adding more greenery. I mean, that was a huge part in the beginning. We screened the entire property. The neighbors are very happy with it. At this point, we're adding some more. All of this along here is planted. This is an area we're going to plant. Some extra in here and some more throughout this area. So it's going to be even more dense. To this point, we've got the adjacent neighbors on Dryden and Brookdale have all voiced their support. I believe you have emails from all of them. I think they've come in. They might not all be in the packet. They've come in since then.
Everything we've received.
Okay.
Yep, I read them.
And so based on that, though, obviously, the screening itself kind of gives us, there's not going to be any injustice. There isn't any visual impact that really dampers the sound. There's no additional lighting that's being proposed here. The lighting plan that was approved before is still the lighting plan. Everything will comply with code. The property itself creates this unique circumstance. So we need to be able to develop the property in this fun, useful way. Requires us to get the accessory variances from you all.
As the passenger train comes out of Pontiac, this could actually be a stop.
We might need a variance for another
At least from a
platform.
scenic perspective, yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? All right, so I'm going to open this for the public for comment. We have someone who'd like to give us some feedback?
Hi, I'm Lyndon Nelson from 5035 Brookdale. I'm here. How are you, Mr. Taylor?
I remember you.
Yeah. So I am here because I was a supporter of this project in the beginning, and I am a supporter of this project today, but along the way, there was a little bit of a hiccup, but I met with Joel, talked to Matt, and things worked its way out the way I would have anticipated them to. So, but because I did come in and voice some concern, I wanted to come here in person. I thought it was important for my integrity. to come here in person and tell you all that we were able to work things out satisfactory for us. I see Rich Sorensen, our president, is here. I've talked to Rich a lot about this, and I think that the one thing for this project, it is a fabulous project, and I have going to be living, I'm on Brookdale, so I'm sort of like in front of the, I don't know, what is it, the basketball court maybe or something? So, you know, I just think it would be better if you guys could communicate more, especially with.
So you got to adjust your comments to us. So.
Okay, sorry. With the, if Joel would communicate more with the board of the neighborhood, I think it's a great project, and I think it would be good, and I think everyone would be online with it. I think it's just a thing of communication. So with that, since I did take up time, see you later.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to give comments on this enchanting project?
Hi, I'm Rich Sorensen. I live at 5090 Brookdale, directly across the street, and I am the president of the neighborhood association. So I'll reiterate what Nelson said. We were never contacted about any of this. While none of this really falls within the scope of our deed restrictions were written in 1915 and deal primarily with setback issues, which we dealt with back in December of 2021. It would have been a nice courtesy to at least talk to us. You think you have my email. I don't really have much of a problem with what Matt's doing. It's caused a lot of problems in the neighborhood. And so it would be nice if there was a little bit more communication. I expressed concerns about the height of the fencing, and they've already addressed that, and I appreciate that. Thank you. It would have been nice to take care of it earlier. I guess the only thing left that I still have some concern about the gates, 14 feet, but I think they're going to screen them, and it should be fine. So I appreciate that we've taken care of a couple of my questions and look for better communication in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen.
My name is Brian Ford. I live at 4950 Dryden Lane. I think for the most part, we're probably going to see most of this project approved. But my concern is you got 14-foot high walls and entryways. Over on Telegraph Road, they couldn't even get a sign in front of a load store that has 10 feet tall. I wonder how this is going to impact the township going forward if we approve this for residential neighborhoods, but we won't want to approve it for commercial neighborhoods. I don't want to have anybody coming back and deciding that they need to get some sort of compensation because of how they were treated. That won't come out of the board, it'll come out of all the residents here. I wouldn't want to see anything like that happen at all. I was a little bit concerned that last week I think Mr. Lemon met with three neighbors that live on Dryden Lane.
Let me have you try to speak a little bit more into the microphone like that. I can hear you better.
I was a little bit concerned that last week Mr. Lemon met with people on Dryden Lane. At the last minute, he met with them. Nobody kind of knew about this. And yes, they all sent in letters and approved everything, but he didn't show me any pictures or anything, or renderings or drawings or anything. It's all done verbally. These are all people that are new to the neighborhood and they don't really understand fully how this project works. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. That's about all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item? So I'll close the public hearing and then have the applicant respond to the comments from the public. Talking about communication, some of the height.
I could take the height one first. I don't think there is any impact. The screening that is completely surrounding this property, nobody is going to be able to see any of these elements. They're so far set back. I don't believe you're setting a precedent in the situation that we've got this unique giant piece of property. The entire property is screened, where we kind of took that extra step where the ordinance asked for elements to be screened. The entire property is screened. We figured that was best both for the property owner as well as all of the neighbors. So I think that you aren't opening up any sort of Pandora's box, because if another property like this comes up, it would have similar things, but in general, most pieces of property aren't going to have this sort of elements, and the screening covers it. And the fact that most of the neighbors and the adjacent neighbors in particular are in support of it kind of shows you that. Communication, it's always a struggle to some extent. We can definitely try to extend more and faster to do that, and we don't have any problem with that. And look for part of these changes, some of them were from some of the neighbor input, so we look forward to interacting with the neighbors.
I have a question. Since the whole property is screened, is there, I mean, maybe you've said this, but what is the need to have 14-foot-high walls if it is, because I would imagine the screening will be up to the height of the walls, correct?
This is, talking about that's particular to the Enchanted Forest, and it's really to create an area within the greater property that also feels secluded and divided off.
Okay. Am I misunderstanding? There's no masonry wall going all the way around, or no? Oh, okay. So the 14-foot-high masonry piers and metal gates. Where is that?
Interior of the property.
That's it, interior?
Interior.
Okay.
Those are the three different locations.
Just for the Enchanted Forest area.
View here.
One's up here, one is right here, and the third one is over
Then why
here.
don't you go to the color picture that shows the gates themselves?
There.
So show.
So you can see it's just, the 14 foot is just the gate in the pier, and then it's hedges.
Okay.
And again, it's all interior. Nobody is going to see that unless you're inside the property itself.
Okay, thank you.
They don't attach to anything.
Okay, thank you. It's kind of like the Shining, where the Overlook Hotel, that's what it reminded me.
So much for Enchanted.
Speaking of Enchanted, yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
So any other questions of the?
No, I'm going to have a question of Patty, though. It would appear to me that with the removal of the 14-high-foot mesh fencing, the only dimensional variance is for the conservatory, and that's was already approved at 18 feet. It's just been a redesign.
If I could
go ahead.
respond,
Yeah,
I think that they're, from my understanding, they're still asking for a 10-foot mesh screen around the trampoline park. That would be a variance over 4
Change that to
feet.
10. Okay.
And then my understanding is that with the new sports court, which they're referring to as the pickleball tennis court, they're also asking for a 10-foot mesh fence.
Correct.
So those would be 2 variances. And then can you just make clear too, if you're asking for a 10-foot mesh fence around the trampoline park?
Yes,
Okay.
inside the hedge.
So
But yes, it is.
We noted for
It is
14
there.
foot, but.
Yep.
So the 10-foot mesh fencing on 3 of the items would still be a
Are
variance.
still
All right,
variances.
thanks.
4 feet.
Okay.
Oh, this will be fun.
What's going on?
I'm going to do this one,
I'll
then
make
you guys, you're going to do it? Go ahead.
Oh, ooh, no,
Go ahead.
You're going to be on YouTube, right? This is going to, people are going to watch this.
I already have 100 videos
You
on
could
YouTube.
get likes
I don't
on
need any
YouTube.
more.
Oh, okay, well, let me see if I can earn my
Raise
wings.
your profile, come on.
Raise my profile. All right, well,
You cut the ribbon on the Enchanted Forest.
okay. Okay. I get a season pass, but, all right. So I'm going to start with the permission request first, which is a long list, but I'm going to make a motion to approve the permission request in regards to the appeal at 5095 Brookdale for the sports court, trampoline park, tree house, deck, climbing walls, piers, and metal gates, waterfall, reflecting pool, play equipment, art pieces, and conservatory studio, which has been redesigned. I move that the request be approved as submitted based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate compliance with Section 42-7.6 standards because the accessory structures should not be objectionable to nearby residents. For one, he has quite a bit of the applicant has quite a bit of support from adjacent neighbors, and it is well screened, and it is a very expansive property. In terms of the dimensional variance, I also move that that be approved at the same location, 5095 Brookdale, for the 10-foot mesh fencing for sports courts and trampoline park, as well as the redesigned conservatory. I move that the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because it would actually prevent the reasonable use of the accessory structures and units. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors. Again, the whole property is well screened, and the property is so large that it's no injustice. Unique circumstances of the property, again, with the expansiveness of, I think it's about 13 acres, did you say? 13 acres, so that is very unique. And because of that, it is not self-created. If approved, the motion also includes application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction. Also, a single-family affidavit must be submitted for a conservatory studio. The use of the sports courts is limited to daytime hours, and there's no illumination of the sports courts permitted, as well as, I don't know if you'll need additional evergreens with this property, but I'm going to just put it out there just in case. Additional evergreens may be required. I don't think that will be absolutely necessary, but I'll put that in the motion as well.
I'm sure the owner is happy to go green.
Oh, is this a go green? Oh, you should have told me that right up front.
You kidding me? So I have a motion and support. Any discussion?
I haven't.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, request is granted.
Thank you.
Oh, go green, okay.
Another logo on it.
Nice.
That one will be
I love
orange
that.
and purple.
Well, I'm on the other side of Brookdale, so.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Fellows, and I'm requesting for 1525 Lakewood, and I'm requesting permission for a pickleball court. We're not really requesting any variances as we have a large lot, and in the location, it's 39 feet from the east and over 130 feet from the south side. And our lot is very well wooded and lots of trees around. And from the front of the house, there's also trees, and the way the trees come around, you can't see the court.
So I've seen many variations of pickleball courts now. There's nothing around the perimeter to catch the ball? Do you have any temporary netting or?
We
'Cause I've
did
seen-
not intend to.
Okay. And you haven't requested anything?
No, and we haven't requested anything.
Okay, so
We
it's
have-
just
yeah,
the
we have
flat-
no,
it's
yeah.
just
And we're
these-
even planning to use like removable posts, so that way, like, I don't know, the net doesn't get ruined in the winter, and we can just sort of remove it.
Got it, okay. Any other questions from the board? Open this to the public hearing. Anyone like to comment? Forward.
Hello, good evening.
Good
I
evening.
am the neighbor right adjacent to this property.
And your name is and address?
Pardon?
Your name and address?
My name is Kathy Orlick, and my address is 1505 Lakewood.
Thank you.
So I'm right next door. In fact, if you take a look at this, I'm glad you've got that up there. Can we point, or you can, or I
You can
can't?
press that red button, hold it down.
Oh, I wanted to go back to the one you were just at. Okay, yeah, okay. What I'm concerned about is, I'm not concerned about the appearance at all, okay? There is space, so you can see where that is, and I believe I had stopped in and talked with you, and we talked about it being about 39 feet from my property. Was it from the property line or the setback?
Property line.
The property line, okay, which is more than necessary. However, where my concern is coming in is with the noise problem, okay? I knew nothing about pickleball, never had heard about pickleball, okay, until my neighbor here educated me. But I had done some research just recently, and that's why I'm just now bringing it up to your attention. Pickleball is very controversial. It's new and it's the rage, but there's not a lot that is known, and the research is coming out very rapidly, and I found out it's an extremely loud sport. You may be aware of that. I was not, okay? So based on my research, and I do have this, can we put this up here? This may be a better visual for me to explain a little bit. And I just, I come across this. And this is some research that was done. It's a little bit blurry up there, but it was done very reputable by an engineer, and he's also in conjunction, either works for, I think, Yale University or did, not now, but he is also the owner of a pickleball sound migration company. And I came across this, and this was really, I actually thought it was going to, pickleball was going to be quieter than, you know, these like basketball and like tennis, etc. But I found out it's the opposite. And it's a very, very loud sport. If you look at this, you know, how loud is it, okay? And it was very surprising to find this out. So if you take a look at this, if you go down where it says pickleball, the loudness is 70 decibels, okay? How do I point with this thing?
Press the button down.
Oh, there we go, great. Okay, you see, it's 70 decibels. 70 decibels, you know, don't know a lot about this, okay? But this is at a level that hearing impairment comes about, okay? It's considered at a disturbing level, okay? And yet they're finding that. The research is pouring in with us. If you look down here at the suburbs here, which is, you know, the Bloomfield Township would fall within this, what's considered, it's 40 decibels is considered like normal loudness levels in terms of that. So if you look at the difference between those two, and I try to put this up here, we can't zero in very well on it.
Stop there.
Maybe you guys can, maybe it's my eyesight's not that great.
You can see.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, but you're talking about pickleball is like, there's 30 levels of differences there between what we expected a suburb to be and what pickleball is doing. That's huge. That's just a huge finding that they have, okay? So it's 30 decibels higher than the suburban decibel that is the level of 40. That's a lot. So I'm concerned about that. Further, research has come out and shown that looking at physics, which I am no expert on whatsoever, but the experts have looked at that, says that there's even a higher increase in the sound level. Quoting, each time you increase the sound level by 10 decibels, okay, and they're talking 30, okay, it will sound twice as loud. So the increase of 30 decibels is actually 8 times louder. It's huge what's going on with us. This is coming out, it's pouring out, it's on the internet. This is where I picked it up. I just did this today, okay? I was concerned, and I talked to my neighbors about it a little bit before, about noise level, but not knowing this at this point. My concern at that time when we last spoke and was the decibels would be, you know, could this be how does it compare with basketball? How does it compare with tennis and these other sports? Because I'm thinking it's going to be, quieter. And guess what? Pickleball is louder. There's a lot of concern going on with us right now, and it's coming to the attention of homeowners associations, ordinances, that this is happening, because it's a new phase going on. More and more pickleball, everybody's playing it, as well as more injuries are coming out and connected with this as well. And so we're seeing this. So I'm concerned with us in terms of how close it is to my house, because if you note on this, okay, I'm used to having this in front of me. If you take a look at those, okay, and it's really small to read, okay, but I have, get down here, they measured this at 100 feet away. 100 feet. Keep in mind, this court is being placed about 39 feet from my property, okay? So at 100 feet, you've got 70 decibels going on. That's a lot at 100 feet. And that's what this was measured at. So when you talk about the increase in this and the physics of it, it's extremely, really, it's dangerous, and it's at a dangerous level. Okay, so I'm bringing that to your attention. I don't think that this is new information. I don't think, and you may be aware of it, okay, I don't know to what extent you are, but this has nothing, the placement is too close, okay, in my opinion, based on the research here. This is hitting the courts across the nation, and it's being found to be legitimate. There's other associations that have looked into it. They also have found in the research something they call like an impulse volume that takes place with the actual impact of the ball itself, which you would think wouldn't be much, considering I think they're plastic or they're lightweight, but the impact of it that actually hits in terms of the paddle and the composition of the paddle as well is another factor going into this. So this is like out there, and we didn't know this, and I didn't know this the last time I spoke with my neighbors as well. I ran across this actually by accident, trying to look at, see how much the sound difference is between basketball and tennis and pickleball. And pickleball is extremely loud. They found that it is 40 times louder than tennis. Okay, that's loud. Okay, so we, in my neighborhood, I'm a longtime member in this neighborhood in Bloomfield Township, and it's a beautiful area. So I have a large lot, as you can see, it's the one right there next to it. There is wooded areas. There's no concern with, seeing it or any visual problem. And I think that was the focus of the subdivision and the restrictions committees when they took a look at this. And I have spoken to both of them yesterday, okay? So this is all very quick, okay? And I don't think we have many pickleball courts, if any, within our subdivision at all. So I'm concerned about this, and I'm concerned about it being this close to my house. I also, but it has nothing to do with the looks of it or how close it is in terms of appearance. There's the woods, there's trees, okay? So I'm trying to find a solution to this, and I don't know, given this new information and it just coming up, I don't know to the extent that you are aware of it or if it was addressed in any of your materials. I just picked up the packet yesterday. That was the first I got a hold of that whole packet. I don't think my subdivision was aware of it at all, or the restrictions committee. And I don't want to be the first here to be dealing with this. So I'm looking for resolution. I felt that we should have more time on this before, I'm looking preventative, this court is not in, it's, this is a new beautiful home that's being put up, it's not, they haven't laid it yet, it's not there.
So I think we understand your objection. It's the use and the noise.
The noise,
Okay.
given that it's at an actual danger level, it's not a normal,
Well, we'll
a
talk
normal
about
level, that's what they're finding, okay?
Okay.
It's high, to the
Okay.
point of damage, okay? So,
So is there anything else you'd like to add to that point?
yes, okay, if we could, solution-wise, move it over. The property is very large, okay? After reading this, I don't know why anyone would want to play the game, okay? It's pretty scary. But if you look at this, if you could put up yeah, no, that's okay. Well, I like this one better. This one, can you put up this one again with the yellow on it? You can see it's really, this is about 39 feet here at this level, and that would be the closest it is to me. But if we can move this in, all this property there's this way, okay?
So again, I think we understand your point. You'd like it moved as far away as
Well, they're
possible.
saying, the research is showing that it should be
Yep.
100 feet or 100 to 50 feet away,
Okay.
okay? So if it could be,
So if you could wrap up your comments, because we're,
okay, I know, I do this, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, if it could be moved way in, okay, or deep. Look how deep the I'm used to a different type of pointer system, I'm sorry. Look how deep the property is.
yeah.
So it could go in here. I'd like it to be 100, 150 feet from where it is, from my property.
Okay.
Right now, it's 30, 39 at this level, So, however, I think it needs to, it has to be figured out. I think in general, it needs to be considered decibel levels. If we're going to start talking about noise,
Yep.
okay, how do we know what noise is?
So we do have so we're going to get to the point, we do have sort of generators, and we have noise levels that are acceptable in townships that we'll address. So I think we understand your point.
Okay.
We understand what your suggestion
Okay.
is, and thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Okay.
So can we have can we consider this or down the line?
So
or-
we're going to discuss it. I want to see if anyone else wants to speak on
There's
it.
also another thing I wanted to suggest. There's also, and I just came across this somewhat in the
So you
researching.
So could you just make it brief, because you've gone on quite a bit of time. It's now
The
9:30.
material, there's also materials out there where you can put fencing and different materials around to try to insulate a pickleball court.
Okay.
So there's a couple solutions I wanted to throw out.
Gotcha.
So I apologize for the length of time.
Thank you
Sorry
very
about
much.
that. Thank you. Thank
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this? So I'd like to close the public hearing, and then, so Patty, what's the decibel level that we accept for generators?
For generators, it's 70.
70, okay, so this is 70. I kind of did a quick look on Google. 70 decibels is like standing next to a dishwasher, and there's some other things. So I will admit, there's certainly a lot of research on it.
The other piece of the actual physics is that sound decreases over distance. So the further away from the source, the quieter it gets. The people who would be experiencing that 70 decibel threshold would be the people on the court.
Playing it, yeah.
The people on the property line or next door would hear something, but it wouldn't be 70 decibels. Yeah.
So the public comment is closed. So
I understand.
Please, your time to talk, which was quite thorough, is done. So is there anything else that you'd like to say in response to the public comment?
One, that obviously we're not going to play in the evening, we're not putting lights, and we like to go to bed early. But, I mean, we would absolutely respect that obviously we're just moving in, we want to respect our neighbors and have a wonderful relationship and invite them over to play pickleball. So, I mean, we obviously, would absolutely, respect and not, abuse that and play in the evening. But the other thing that we should note is that the amount of woods, which would also act as a sound barrier to that, is quite dense. And like that is, if you just are looking at that tree line right there, looking straight on, like to the front porch, Our property line is another 50 feet into the woods because it's pie shape. So although we're 39, like the back of the court would be 39 feet to the corner, that side between our homes is on an angle heading out. So the front is much further over. So there's a huge, you know, like dense forest that is on the east, south, and west side of our home. And if putting, you know, trees closer to it, maybe some evergreens or something to also help, you know, control that sound, we'd obviously be willing to do that as well. But we really, you know, and as far as the noises, is that down the street, we happen to live, the Lakewood dead ends to Wing Lake, and granted it's, you know, whatever, 6 houses over, but there are, 5 tennis courts there that have all been marked for pickleball, and they're busy all the time, and, you know, nobody in the neighborhood has ever complained about the noise coming off of those courts too. And those are a lot of them, you know, going, what did I say?
Right, so.
Yeah, BHMS.
Okay.
Sorry.
You can talk to us. So anything else then? So there was a.
No, and really just, you know, just to say
why that location, just so we can button that down?
Oh, why that location? Because if we were to put it on the other side of the property, then it would have been like exposed, because that's where the driveway is, and so then it would have been like, you know, right at the like street view. So this way it's kind of hidden behind the house, and we didn't want it in the middle because we don't know down the road if maybe one day we want to put in a pool or a big garden or other things, that we didn't want to like put something smack in the middle and then be stuck with that.
Okay. All right, any other questions on the board? So discussion or a motion? Said she'd add trees if we wanted.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the permission request at 1525 Lakewood Road, apologies, I'm going to move that the permission request be approved as submitted. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate compliance with section 42-7.6 standards. The size of the accessory structure is compatible with adjoining properties based on the size of the lot, the size of the item being installed. And with that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year prior to installation. Some additional evergreen screening may be required to screen from public view on the east side of the house from the road. And the use of the sports court is limited to daytime hours, and there is no illumination permitted.
Support.
Thank you.
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted. Calling item 12, 600 Pine Valley Way.
Good evening. My name is Roger Young with Young & Young Architects, representing Mr. John Walker, the owner of 600 Pine Valley Way. This is a residence, actually, that my father designed the year I was born, and so I'm going to point to him for 68. And my father's actually at 96, still working, and so the proposed additions are designed by my dad. We're requesting 2 additions. Just for clarity's sake, the public notice had them flip-flopped. So the first item is actually the second-story bedroom addition, and the second item is the main level existing garage addition. So just for clarity's sake for the board and the public that are watching this. So I'll begin with the garage addition. The highlighted area to the left side or west of the property is a 4-foot addition that is at the main level that is essentially taking the existing garage door, removing it, and there's a wing wall that exists on that building that we want to build a solid facade wall of cement plaster and move the existing. Yes, thank you very much, Andrea. Can I borrow a pointer? If it helps. I'm trying to be brief. So this area here, this is the west side of the property. It's 96 feet from the side yard and over 200 feet from the neighboring residence to the west. So this is 4 feet in depth, 12.5 feet in width, and 8 feet in height. It's just a small minor addition to the owner's desire to convert this garage, he's not a car guy per se, into a home office. And then the second proposal in front of you this evening is a second-level addition to the existing primary bedroom, and this addition projects into the rear yard. The highlighted area represents the 80 square feet or 82 square feet of second-story addition with open-air covered patio below. And so everything about this addition is maintaining the architecture, the materials, the harmonious nature of the site. The site is really unique in that it really kind of just has a front and a rear yard. The house was sited kind of landlocked in there, and so there's some hardships with the not only the setbacks but also the topography. We looked at pulling it to the east, even though this is the primary bedroom location on the upper floor, and it just conflicted with so many things about the existing home and trying to maintain the integrity of that special building. We did everything we could to minimize these additions to the smallest amount possible. We feel that the house is modest in size. The owner's goals are to increase the size of the bedroom or primary bathroom, which is presently 5 by 11. So it's a real small bathroom by modern standards, and increase that for accessible, even though he doesn't have any issues, but this is age in place. He hopes to live as many years in this home and make it more gracious for long-term living. I'm happy to answer any questions you or the audience might have on this proposal in front of you.
I'll open this to the public. Anyone here like to comment on it?
Good evening to the board, and thank you for all you do. My name is Doug Mannix. I live at 569 Long Lake Pines Court, directly to the north of this site. I'm representing not only myself and my wife, but the Long Lake Pines HOA, which is directly to the north. And also my neighbor Ray Ebbing is here. He's at 567. Both of our houses are immediately to the north. So we constructed our house about 7 years ago. We abided by all the setbacks, screening, special outdoor lighting requirements imposed by the township. We're asking the board to reject this appeal due to the following. The current house and garage are already in violation of the township ordinances due to the fact they significantly infringe on the 35-foot setback. If you want to maybe go to the site plan. You can see the garage is entirely in the setback. That's not the current homeowner's problem, but I can't understand how the board could exacerbate the problem by adding on to that. That garage is currently 17 feet from my property line, and we're 35 feet back from there. So our house looks directly down on the garage. We see the garbage cans. It's it's very unsightly on that side of it. The other thing, it's by definition, it's a non-conforming structure. The applicant has referenced a hardship due to the lot configuration. As far as I know, it hasn't changed since he bought it. It's simply too small for the current house, much less two additions. I believe they purchased the site and were well aware of how big the site was. The applicant also states the conditions of the property are not self-created. That's simply not true, given the definition of self-creation in your form includes the actions of the predecessors. Clearly, the prior owners constructed the non-conforming structures, and they maxed out the site. The applicant states the two additions do not impact the neighbor's enjoyment. We respectfully disagree, but for a few months of summer, The current house and garage are very visible to the surrounding neighbors. While it is a very nice home, adding to it is only going to make it more imposing and visible. The current proposed request for a variance is unacceptable, and I urge the board to reject it. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Ray Ebbing, and I live at 567 Long Lake Pines Court. As Doug described, Doug's directly behind the garage area, and I'm directly behind where the addition, the residence addition, will be going in. And I think my initial concern has been addressed. If I'm understanding what you had said earlier, is that the two are swaps. In other words, the residence addition is only encroaching 9 feet, whereas the garage is the one that's encroaching 19 feet. Okay, so that's cleared. The other concern I have, I think, is a number of trees would have to be removed to do this. There's some very large trees back there, and you know, looks very nice during summer and other months, but I'm concerned that if an addition is put on, they're going to have to knock a lot of the big trees out of there. I don't know that for sure, especially in light of the fact that those things have been swapped. It's only 9 feet encroaching. But for sure, and I agree with Doug, what he said, representing the homeowners association as well. But if there was any sort of approval, for sure there'd have to be some major screening back there in terms of evergreens and so forth due to the winter months as well. That's pretty much everything I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on this? I'll close public hearing and ask the applicant to respond to the comments from the public.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening, and I guarantee you that not only my firm, but Mr. Locker has every intention of being a great neighbor. We always strive to do the right thing long-term. So I guess I'll go back to just a couple of comments. First and foremost, landscaping. Mr. Locker is working with Matt Mosier from Mosier Design, and will be densely planting the areas where there's presently, and you'd see on the site plan, some existing evergreens. He's going to double down, if not triple down on that. So the existing cedar fence will remain. That will be on his side, brought back to up to snuff, if you will. Thank you. There you can see it. That's this guy here. And then in all the areas in between these existing trees will be, I believe, hemlocks are the species that do well in the shade that Matt's considering. And then you can see the fence in this area as well. Both your homes, again, are sited kind of to the southeast and the southwest, with your garages being nestled in the middle of these. And this is where you live, so I can't speak to that, but we also were mindful of that. We knew that that would be the area that your primary views are looking away from the back of this house, and you're about 12 feet above, so you are looking down. And Mr. Locker does have every intention of, part of the renovations is bringing a storage area inside one of the existing garages to put the garbage cans and anything that's left outside. The addition occurs, forgive me, in this area right here. So it extends out to about that point on the second floor. It's 20 feet in height, and the roof lines mimic the existing architecture identically. All the materials, the cedar roof, the stucco, will be as existing. Further site development includes just improving this patio area. This tree is, we're going to do, it's not, to your point about the trees, no trees are affected by this construction, and we're working with a horticulturalist to preserve this tree and just do everything we can to protect it. But so no trees are removed during construction. Additional trees will be planted. And to the point of the board, at the time prior to this development, it was Villa Francesca. It was a different, I don't know if there were nuns or what was happening there, but the board in September of 2003 approved the garage addition with understanding that there was some uniqueness to this property, and we're not extending any further into the rear yard than presently. We had no intention of doing that whatsoever. The addition that presently is on this side is to the west, so the existing 18-foot plus setback is honored. And then we really wanted, the wall of the second-story addition only extends 5 feet into the setback. So as a practical matter, from your respecting what you're visually seeing, the building is pushed back to the greatest extent that we could at least just get this modern bathroom. We're admirers of the development, the quality of development. We worked with Terry Nosen, so I spoke to Terry about this and wanted his thought on it, and he said, you guys will do the right thing. And I apologize for not reaching out to you gentlemen in advance. I let Terry know that we were doing this. I thought that he might reach out, but we want to be good neighbors. We live and work in the community. I've lived here my whole life, so I'm very familiar with the setting. And moving forward, if the board does find this proposal acceptable, we would want to reach out to you to make sure that anything that could make this better for you and not impact you and your enjoyment of your home a priority. I mean that sincerely.
So could you go back to the aerial where we're showing the extension of the garage again? See the...
So this is the 4-foot. There's an existing 8-foot high stucco wall that's just a wing wall that extends to the due east of the garage. So we're just infilling that below the existing roof line. So it's a flat roof, 8-foot high little bump. It's not visible by the homes to the north where these gentlemen live. It would be visible by the neighbor to the west. We're 96 feet to the side yard here, and then they're almost another 100 feet further west for their garage of their home. The two homes of the neighbors that are here right now are located here, facing this way, sighting this way, and sighting this way. Our addition's like right. Oh, that would be helpful.
When was the original structure built?
1968. It was one of the earlier homes in the neighborhood, and it's incredible. The whole area is beautiful, but this is a neat setting in that it's at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we have the front yard that wraps all the way around. There is no side yard on the east side, and then just this rear yard. And again, none of this, and Charlie Whitelaw, who's also a Bloomfield Township resident, will be the general contractor, and we talked about everything we can to not impact. The bulk of the old growth trees are along the property line and in this area here, so all construction is coming in through this access point if this were to be approved. And then this guy right here is it's on the pavement of the garage. The work, gentlemen, if this were to be considered by the board, would commence as soon as possible and be completed in less than a year. I don't know if the renderings were provided for the boards.
So Patty, my understanding in looking at that is that the garage is already totally non-conforming.
Correct.
No.
And adding onto it isn't expanding the it is adding to the non-conformity, but not encroaching any further into the setback.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it? How many more feet are you?
From that perspective, yes.
Yeah, it's not encroaching any further into the setback, it's just extending the length of
Right.
the length that is.
I see what you're saying, because it's parallel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That is
it's
correct.
running parallel.
The
So it's-
encroachment exists, and he's just,
yeah,
That is
so-
correct.
so
This is the side.
it's a wider
So the-
encroachment
Yeah.
to that
So that-
property line.
So the
Okay.
encroachment, the additional 19 feet is perceptually incorrect, at least from my perspective. You're only adding 4 feet.
Correct. We're not increasing the existing non-conforming.
Which is what I was trying to struggle with. How do you add 4 feet but now become 19 feet encroaching? Because
It
the
reads-
math doesn't work. Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so.
I couldn't understand that, so now I do.
But I don't get it.
Now I
What?
get it.
I don't understand it.
And, this is a very interesting property.
It's under the existing roof line?
Encroachment is parallel to the...
So it's right here, it's just, it's
And
this
it's under
this
the
wall.
existing, it's under the existing roof line.
Exactly. It's
So
tucked, it's tucked right
So
here.
it's actually not, it's, the soffit, it's not, the soffit already is extended into the area that will be enclosed.
Correct.
So.
The existing soffit.
Yeah, the existing soffit.
Correct. This overhang right here,
In
that
theory, while
remains,
the roof is encroaching, what's under it isn't, and all you're going to do is enclose what's under it.
that is correct.
Now, that's,
Okay, that's helpful.
okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, it really
You know,
is.
it would be real nice if it was Warren and it was Pinto and Palomino and they were just squares and rectangles and that stuff. You know, Bloomfield Township has to be different.
It does.
Yeah, okay,
So
so.
public comment is closed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Characterization.
I do want to ask, what is requiring the addition to the house? I know that homes that have been built now for some 50-plus years can reach some functional obsolescence. What is it that this home is experiencing that requires it to have the addition made that's creating the need for the variance?
That's an excellent question. It's really the nature of the use of the master or primary bedroom and bath. The 5-foot by roughly 11-foot bathroom is a galley, and the shower itself is 4x4. So there's a functional need. So we wanted to work within the existing constraints of the home without taking away a bedroom that exists up there. There's 2 small modest bedrooms that are roughly 10 feet square. The original owners, they built the bedrooms, they never had children. Almost every homeowner since that time has either had, they've been empty nesters. It works, unfortunately, as an empty nester home, and the gentleman that lives there loved this house. He was going to build new, and he said, I want to be able to live my years out in it, but there's just things that I know. I need a toilet compartment that's at least 3 feet wide. And there's just some things, so without giving up a closet, and in the spirit of compromise of one of the prior petitioners, his partner said, can we just get a proper modern bathroom and still have a closet in our bedroom without having to convert the existing bedroom to lose that bedroom for a parent or a guest that might stay there. Okay. So it was really looking at how they can grow old in this home, how they could do the minimum that is 80 square feet into the setback. That's the dimensions that project into the rear yard. We're projecting 5 feet for the building proper, which is it's 82 square feet that we're requesting that the board consider.
So Mr. Mannix, because you sat through a rather long meeting, if you can what is it that you feel is inaccurate? I'll give you a brief comment.
You know, it's talking about the garage, but the other one infringes in the setback, so we have an ordinance.
I understand. I was trying to understand. It was the garage that was
right
19 feet in. That's why I was.
We have an ordinance for allow people to abide by the ordinance. And we're not talking a foot, and we're talking a 2-story addition.
Nope,
Right.
I understand.
Okay.
Ordinances are designed to try and keep control of what goes on, but in unique communities like we have here, it's not Warren. I work there. I can assure you it's not Warren. It's very different. And what looks good on paper doesn't always work with what exists. So that's what we do here. And it's what makes these properties unique and gives them value and gives the communities value. So that's the other issue I would make, is that the nonconformity of the community, the lack of cookie cutter, is what actually adds value to Bloomfield Township.
Any other comments? Linda, do you have anything you want to say from, okay?
You get it?
I get it. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say a 5-foot bathroom is outdated. I mean, if you
It's
ever
functionally
even want-
obsolete.
It's functionally obsolete.
Yeah.
Can't even meet the
With that having been
plumbing
said,
code in that width.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. With that having been said, with regard to the dimensional variance at 600 Pine Valley Way, I am going to move that the dimensional variances being requested be approved. Based on the information presented, the applicant has demonstrated all of the standards for practical difficulty. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because functionally obsolete houses deteriorate value, and this certainly is no injustice to the adjoining neighbors because it increases value. Unique circumstances of the property are clearly demonstrated by the age of the home, the functionality of the interior, and the site that it sits on, none of which is self-created. With that having been said, application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction.
Support.
So I motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I oppose.
I'm opposed.
Okay, so let's do roll call. Meads,
Yes. In favor.
Ford,
Yes.
Giagrande,
No.
Henry,
No.
Taylor,
Yes.
Fiddleman. Yes.
Motion carries 4-2.
Okay.
Thank you all for your thoughtful consideration.
So calling the next item, item 13. 2781 Turtle Shores.
Good evening, Board. Anthony Sheena, Sapphire Luxury Homes. I think by default, this should be approved because I had to sit through pickleball battle.
You sound like a podcaster, your voice.
So, yeah, yours is actually, I think, unusual, but, appropriate. So, it's a height variance for a house that's on Turtle Shores due to the grade. So it's either got to be 2 stories or an average height that they exceed by 3 feet 2 inches. So if you look at the grade and what's needed, the height variance makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, we had to mirror the property, and we sent it to the building official, and it's being reviewed. But it actually reduced by 10 inches now. So
Okay.
the variance is 33.4, went down to 32 something. The house is actually shorter.
Okay.
Yep.
So what do you ask?
Just letting you know.
Okay. It's actually not as big as what you said.
Yeah.
So do you guys understand what the variance is for? So typically you don't allow houses.
It's a big house on a weird lot.
Yeah. So let's go with that. Oh, wait, I'll open the public comment?
No.
Close public comment, bring it back?
So no issue with the number of stories or anything like that? It's mentioned in here, but it's not a problem?
Well, because if he didn't have
It's a
that
variance.
bottom story, he'd have like a block or something, and it would look silly, so.
Yeah, okay.
Wouldn't make sense.
Yes, he technically needs foundation to hold up that amount of house, to get from the grade at the back to the
Correct.
ground floor house. There's 2 functionally levels in there.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Without having to significantly
Solid
change the
concrete,
topography of the land.
It's a
Might as well put some
result
house in
of
there.
the foundation on that steeply sloping a lot.
Okay.
Said an architect.
I'd like to make a motion. Are you, any questions? Discussions? Okay. Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve the dimensional variance in regards to the appeal at 2781 Turtle Shore Drive for the dimensional variance for the height, over maximum height exceeding maximum number of stories. I move that the variance be approved as requested based on the information presented. The applicant did demonstrate all standards for practical difficulty because compliance with strict letter of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because of the severe topography of the lot. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors, as this will be consistent with larger homes in the area. The unique circumstances of the property, again, because of the slope and topography that is requiring this height variance, and because of that, it is not self-created. If approved, the motion also includes application for all necessary permits must be made within 1 year, and all permits must be obtained prior to construction.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, your request is granted.
Thank you, board.
This guy will really get surprised.
Good evening. My name is Matt Olajarczyk with Motor City Landscaping. In regards to 211 Turtle Grove Court, for Novara residents, we are seeking a approval for a 2-foot by 2-foot by 4-foot high illuminated mason pillar located within the front yard.
The illumination is
The
on
lanterns
top?
on the top?
Yes, that's correct. If
They're included in the...
there you go,
4
right
feet?
there's the schematic of it.
So
It
they're-
also gives the wattage that the bulb would be supplying. This has also been approved by the HOA at Turtle Lake for the pillar and the illumination.
It's low wattage,
Yeah.
40 foot, or 40
It's only
watts.
2 foot.
Well, yeah.
The pillar itself is only, is very small.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
that's great.
fixture is larger,
Good work.
and it pushed all the way back towards the, that actually is the, if you could go back to the, one more, right there. Per HOA approval, they wanted the pillars to be pushed back to the driveway, auto court, not so far up towards Turtle Grove Court. So that is the revised design.
Nice.
All right, so I'm going to open the public hearing.
I tell you what, I should have been first. I've been in and out.
You should have.
Sorry about that.
It's not your lucky day. So I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back for a motion.
I'll make a motion. It's a front yard variance. A motion to approve of the dimensional variance in regard to the appeal at 2816 Turtle Grove Court. I move the variance be approved as requested. Based on the information presented, the applicant did demonstrate all standards of practical difficulty. Compliance with the strictures of the ordinance would be unduly burdensome because the privacy or the safety afforded by these modest illuminated piers are appropriately located relative to the front yard and the parking area. There's no injustice to the adjoining neighbors, again, because of their relatively small stature, and the unique circumstances of the property have been demonstrated. Does it also require just a basic
Permission request?
permission request for the appeal at the same property? Request the approval be approved because it does demonstrate all standards of 42-7.6 standards. The size of the accessory structure is compatible with the house and adjoining properties, will not hinder or discourage the use of adjacent property, and is sufficient scale for the neighborhood. Should this motion be approved, all permits must be made within 1 year, and permits must be received before commencing construction.
Support.
So I have motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, you're...
Thank you.
Matt?
Have a good night.
So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
And second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm sure no one's opposed.